This podcast of the Equine Forum is brought to you by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business. It all begins in 15 seconds right after this word from our podcast sponsor.
The University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business is now offering a graduate certificate, which can be completed in 15 or 30 weeks and be done as a standalone or used as 20% of your MBA. Classes at both the undergraduate and graduate level are forming now for August.
From the rail to your radio, this is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
It's Arrogate in front, leading by 3 with 1/8 of a mile to go. Shaman Ghost is trying to get into second. Then Neolithic. Back fourth is Noble Bird, followed by Keen Ice. But what a race! What a sport! What a horse! Arrogate romps in the Pegasus. Tabor in the center of the track with good-looking stride squares off with Cyberknife. Cyberknife takes the lead. Tabor going with him. These two in a thriller. Cyberknife just in front. And Cyberknife has won the TVG.com Haskell.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
On the outside, Decorated Invader up to challenge for the lead. Colonel Liam is being outkicked, at least right now. Street Ready down the center. Far outside, Good Governance up the fence. City Man, final 1/8 of a mile. Here's City Man. Rosario, so patient, finds a seam and now takes the lead. 16th to go, and City Man has the Fort Lauderdale all locked up.
The leader is Smarty Jones. 2 down automatic second. Pro Prado to the outside. They drive for the wire. Smarty Jones leads it. Here's 2 down automatic. Pro Prado. Smarty Jones continues undefeated, wins the Southwest by 3/4.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Good morning once again, everyone. It is post time for the show that launched a network. It is the Equine Forum, and it is all presented by TwinSpires right here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch. Happy to have you back with me here this morning right up until 11 a.m. Eastern on Sirius 216, XM 204, affiliates in Lexington, Louisville, and across the country, and streaming worldwide and podcast on our website at horseracingradio.net. And don't forget, you can listen to podcasts of this show and all of our shows on our website or wherever you are accessing your podcasts. Well, over the course of the past 8 days, 3 jockeys have reached the same career milestone and added their names to the 2,000 win club. Tyler Gaffalione was the first to reach that mark last Friday. Junior Alvarado came back and followed suit last Saturday, and Florent Geroux picked up his 2,000th win 2 days ago. I'm going to have the chance to visit with one of those riders, Florent Geroux, coming up at 9 o'clock Eastern, and I think it's going to be fun to spend a little time looking back on some of the career moments which stand out most to him, and of course look ahead to his mounts in today's stakes at Gulfstream, which include the morning line favorite Cyberknife in the $3 million Pegasus World Cup. Flo is going to be looking for his second win in the Pegasus, having guided Gunrunner to victory in 2018. Champion jockey Irad Ortiz Jr. is the only rider to have won 2 World Cups thus far. Now, again, you're only talking about a few editions of the race, but Irad's won it twice, only one to do so. And speaking of Irad, I want to extend my congratulations to all of the people in our sport and all of the horses who were honored with an Eclipse Award on Thursday night. Well done. And best wishes for continued success here in 2023. Coming up at 8:35 Eastern, Eclipse champion apprentice jockey Jose Anthony Gomez, I should say, is going to be with me to talk about his brilliant first season in the saddle. But back to Cyberknife for a minute. There are some very intriguing similarities with Cyberknife and 2018 World Cup winner Gunrunner. First, Cyberknife is, of course, the son of Gunrunner. As a matter of fact, he is Gunrunner's top earner in what has been a brilliant start to his stud career. Gunrunner also faced 11 rivals the year that he won the Pegasus World Cup, much like Cyberknife is expected to do later today. Gunrunner was also the favorite in that race. But here's the fun stat. Gunrunner broke from post position 10, and he wore that number saddle towel. Cyberknife has drawn the exact same post as his father in today's race. And oh, by the way, the Pegasus World Cup was Gunrunner's final career start before heading off to stud duty, and today is expected to be the last time we see Cyberknife on the racetrack before he begins his stallion career at Spendthrift in Lexington. My poll question for today's show is not going to be who wins the Pegasus World Cup. It's going to take a little different angle. Which long shot has the best chance to upset today's Pegasus World Cup at Gulfstream Park? Give you a few choices here, and then you can chime in and comment if your horse is not among those three long shots. White Abarrio, Art Collector, and O'Connor. Those are your three choices, and then the fourth category is other. And if you do choose other and vote for that one, please share your upset pick. So which long shot has the best chance to upset today's Pegasus World Cup at Gulfstream? White Abarrio, Art Collector, O'Connor, or other? You can go to @HRRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook to cast your vote. Or if you don't do social media, simply email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net, and I'll pass along your comments and your votes later in the show. I'm going to take a swing at White Abarrio simply because of the old horse for course angle. All four of his career wins have come at Gulfstream Park. As a matter of fact, he has never lost at Gulfstream. He is a perfect 4 for 4, including his big win in the Florida Derby last April. He certainly isn't the same horse when he travels away from his home base, but he did end his 2022 campaign with the two best Brisnet speed figures of his career, and that narrow defeat in the Grade 1 Cigar Mile, which lends me to believe he was just getting good again at the end of 2022. He's training extremely well for his return. He has 2 bullet works from his last 3. And playing the home game today is a huge edge for this horse. Huge. So at 10-1 on the morning line, I'm going to take a stab with White Abarrio. I don't think he goes off at 10-1. I think that gets bet down a little bit, but I think you can probably get 7 or 8-1. And I'm not sure it's really all that much of a stab in this race today anyway. With all due respect to Cyberknife, who I put right behind Taba in my votes for Eclipse Champion 3-year-old, White Abarrio ain't facing Arrogate today. He's not going up against Gunrunner. And he certainly doesn't have to beat a horse like Knicks Go in this spot this afternoon. Let's face it, those horses were at a different level than the horses we're going to see later today. So let me know which horse you feel has the best chance to upset the Pegasus World Cup today with our poll question. You know, when the concept of the Pegasus World Cup was first introduced in January of 2016, it was the brainchild of then Stronach Group President Frank Stronach. His initial proposal called for the race to be 1.25 miles to be run at either Gulfstream or Santa Anita in mid to late January. And it wouldn't, the timing of the race was perfect because it wouldn't interfere with the Breeders' Cup. We've seen that. The timing is exactly like it was proposed. Doesn't interfere with the Breeders' Cup horses, gives them plenty of time to recover, come back and run in this race, and then use it as a prep for the Dubai World Cup if they choose to go that route. The timing is also perfect because of the way the breeding season in North America is set up. The breeding sheds open right around Valentine's Day. So it makes for a perfect last stop if a horse, like, say, Cyberknife, for example, this year, is going to go off to stud. We saw Gunrunner do it. When the race debuted in 2017, it was not 1.25 miles as it was proposed. It was 1.125 miles, and it has been 1.125 miles, and it carried a purse of $12 million. Today, that distance remains the same, but the purse, well, nothing to sneeze at, is $9 million less. I'm going to welcome Frank Stronach to the show at 9:40 Eastern. Have a chance to visit with him about being somewhat of a visionary in the sport of thoroughbred racing. And look, Frank has worn a lot of hats. He's been questioned. He's been criticized. He's been vilified. But he's also been praised for a lot of the things that he's been able to do. And when Frank wrote the $87 million check to purchase Gulfstream Park in 1999, remember, it came on the heels of him buying Santa Anita. And it was the next step in what was being called his racing empire. Of course, he would go on to acquire Pimlico, Laurel, etc. after that point, and that would bolster his empire even further. And if you recall, Frank's aggressive moves really had the industry on edge at that time. One man, one entity controlling all of those major racing venues wouldn't be good for the sport. Then came the announcement that Frank Stronach was going to tear down the old Gulfstream grandstand and replace it with a much smaller grandstand and add restaurants and a shopping area on the Gulfstream property. Are you kidding me? Take away the parking, take away it, and at first it was a total nightmare. As you can imagine, that went over like a lead balloon. But also the exact decision that allowed all of us, myself included, to begin to get a glimpse inside the mind of Frank Stronach and start to understand what his vision for the sport really was. And I hated, I'll be the first to say it, I hated, and I did say it back then on this very same show, hated, despised what I saw when we went to Gulfstream for our first broadcast of the Don Handicap back in 2006. You couldn't even tell there was a racetrack anywhere around because of all the construction equipment blocking the view where the shopping and restaurant area has now been built. But once everything was completed, that vision and the concept began to grow on me, and I know it did for several other people in the sport too. Let's face it. The reality is that with the popularity of ADWs and the ease of betting races from your couch, from the golf course, sitting in your car outside the grocery store, yeah, I've done that. The need for the large grandstands at racetracks just isn't there anymore. Yeah, I know, it sucks on big race days, such as Pegasus and Florida Derby Day, but outside of a couple of days each year, how often does a racetrack fill those seats? It just doesn't happen anymore. Large grandstands on a day-in, day-out basis are unnecessary in this current day and age. They're wasted space that can be used for other things to enhance the fan experience when attending the races. That's just the reality. I'm going to look forward to talking with Frank later. Again, 9:40 Eastern is when he will join me here on this program. All right, so here's what's ahead. Coming up at 8:15, you're going to hear an interview with Gulfstream announcer Pete Aiello. Pete joined our Bobby Neuman yesterday afternoon on our Friday Betting with Bobby show, and he previewed the Pegasus World Cup races today. We'll get a chance to kick things off in that fashion. 8:35, I will welcome Jose Antonio Gomez, the newly crowned Eclipse Champion Apprentice jockey. That should be a fun interview. 9 o'clock, jockey Florent Geroux, the newest member of the 2000 Win Club, will join me to look back on his favorite career moments and talk about Cyberknife in today's Pegasus World Cup. 9:20, trainer Ryan Hansen, who has a horse in the Pegasus World Cup turf, and he has a horse in tomorrow's San Vicente. Matter of fact, Ryan is the only trainer in tomorrow's San Vicente not named Bob Baffert. Yeah, 5-horse field, 4 Bafferts, and a Hansen. Ryan Hansen will be with me at 9:20 to talk about his runners this weekend. And again, Frank Stronach at 9:40. 10 o'clock, Joe Kristufek joins me for this week's edition of the TwinSpires Triple Play. Kurt Becker's Stroll Through Racing History comes up at 10:20. And Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin join me at 10:30 Eastern for I Ask, They Answer. A lot of fun topics there. I'm going to ask them about some of those Eclipse categories. And I'll ask them, did the voters get it right or wrong? There were a few that were kind of wide open. I'll debate those with Dale and Tim at 10:30 Eastern. I'm also going to ask them, with the NFL playoffs coming down to their final 4 this weekend, which jockey and which trainer best compares to the 4 remaining quarterbacks on those teams? That should be fun. A little something different. Looking forward to that coming up at the end of the show. A lot of things to get to. Make sure you go weigh in on the poll question at HRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook. And, yes, you can email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net. You'll hear from Pete Aiello coming up next. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Airdrie Stud is proud to announce the arrival of Grade 1 winning millionaire Happy Saver for the 2023 season. Happy Saver boasts one of the most important female families of the century, as his third dam is Broodmare of the Year Weekend Surprise, dam of the legendary AP Indy. Undefeated in his first 5 starts, Happy Saver capped off his perfect 4-for-4 season with an emphatic victory in the historic Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup.
And Happy Saver stays undefeated. He steps up and he wins the Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup.
Airdrie Studs, Happy Saver. Think about it.
There's plenty to bet on at Gulfstream Park this January with the return of the championship meet, featuring live thoroughbred racing Wednesday through Sunday and the $3 million Pegasus World Cup on Saturday, January 28th. Enjoy the races outdoors from the Carousel Club or cool off in a private suite or a restaurant 10 Palms. For stake schedules, reservations, and tickets, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
Adina Stallions set the gold standard, all number 1 in their category. Point of entry, the number 1 stallion by black type and greatest stakes winners standing in Canada.
Oh, the classy point of entry would not be denied.
Shaman Ghost, the number 1 second crop sire standing in Canada.
It's Shaman Ghost, an overwhelming force in the last 16th of a mile.
Signature Red, the number 1 stallion by percentage of black type winners standing in Canada.
Signature Red won his second Highlander in a row.
And Silent Name, the number 1 stallion by percentage of black type performers standing in Canada. A list that includes Grade 1 winner Silent Poet.
Silent Poet in front, Admiralty Pier out the ground, but Silent Poet has won the Highlander Stakes.
And don't forget Adina's new sire, American Guru. His first crop are now yearlings of 2023. American Guru, the son of Unbridled Song, whose family have already set their gold standards around the world.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN. Presented by TwinSpires.
About 4 off the lead, a long way clear of Top Gun Classic as they swing for the judges. Inside the court of pole, Man-Child taken on either side. South Coast Route coming along the inside rail. I Am Not Uncertain joining in. So is A Belief in This Livin'. And Colo Mio is just behind them. It's Man-Child fighting bravely. He's still got his nose in front. A Belief in This Livin's lunging after him. Man-Child, A Belief in This Livin'. Man-Child held out A Belief in This Livin' to score by a neck with South Coast Route third, and fourth is between I Am Not Uncertain and Colo Mio.
Man-Child with that maiden-breaking win and looking to add to his resume tomorrow, actually, in the San Vicente Stakes at Santa Anita. That race is tomorrow. A lot of greatest stakes action today. That is not one of them. That comes your way on Sunday. And trainer Ryan Hansen, represented by the only horse in the race not trained by Bob Baffert. I'll talk to Ryan about that horse, and we'll talk about one more bid who goes postward later today in the Pegasus World Cup Turf. Ryan will be with me coming up at 9:20 Eastern Time to talk about those two horses and maybe talk about trying to become racing's newest giant killer. If he can pull off a win, if he wins both of those, he's 100% the giant killer. If he wins 1 out of 2, that's pretty darn good, too, because both of those horses, by the way, in their respective races, 20-1 on the morning line. So it's going to take some doing on both of their parts. Well, it is Pegasus World Cup day at Gulfstream. Fantastic day of racing in South Florida. And Pete Aiello is the man whose voice you'll hear calling the races later this afternoon. And yesterday he was kind enough to spend some time with our Bobby Neuman on betting with Bobby.
Pleased to be joined now by the voice of Gulfstream Park and the man who's going to be on the mic once again tomorrow, Pete Aiello. Pete, This will be now the 7th ever Pegasus World Cup. Forever it was known as the Don Handicap, and we've seen some of the greatest runners of our lifetimes run at Gulfstream Park in either the Don Handicap or now the Pegasus World Cup. You know, I didn't realize this till I was looking at it right now. You know, Bob Baffert doesn't run a whole lot of horses at Gulfstream Park, but he runs horses in the Pegasus, and he's won 2 Pegasus World Cups. Not only that one with Arrogate, but a few years later with Mucho Gusto. He's going to have another chance again with Defunded tomorrow. Let's start with the big race tomorrow. I know that not only you have a duty to call the races, but I know you like handicapping the races and, you know, every now and then putting a few bucks down as well. How do you see the Pegasus playing out as far as the pace scenario and the horses you're looking at most?
Well, and I also make the morning line, which forces me to handicap the races. So if anybody has any extreme beef with the morning line, feel free to let me know. But the thing about it is that to me, the track is, as a general rule, going to be very, very fast. So I wouldn't look for horses coming from way, way back. But at the same time, I'm not real sure how the pace is going to unfold in the race because it's not Cyberknife, who doesn't need the lead by any stretch of the imagination, but he draws outside. So he has to use some tactical speed to get over, but he's got a ton of speed on his inside. So I wouldn't be surprised, though. If I was Irad Ortiz Jr., I would send Defunded out of there with everything I had, hope to clear, and then trust that the racetrack would carry me the rest of the way.
You mentioned post position. That was really a major play in that first ever Pegasus. Arrogate drew the rail. California Chrome drew the outside. And to a lot of us, it seemed like the race was won at the post draw.
Yeah, and for those who were still lingering that the race wasn't won at the post draw, it was won by the time they got to the first turn because, you know, Mike Smith got off the inside with Arrogate, and then California Chrome was wide the whole way. And I could also remember, Bobby, that the year Gun Runner won it, he didn't draw well either. And I remember thinking that, you know, wow, he's really going to have to negotiate the trip that he wants. And then just like the year before that, by the time they got to the backstretch, I even kind of gave you know, you and I talk about having friends who know what we're actually saying when most of the country just listens to the words we say. But I said Florent Geroux gets the spot he wants with Gun Runner, and that was code for this race is over. Go cash your tickets if you haven't, because he worked right onto the hip of the leader, and the rest was history. So is that the same thing he's going to try with Cyberknife? I certainly would think if he could get that spot, he would be very tough to beat.
Speaking with Pete Aiello, the voice of Gulfstream Park, there are 3 races with the word Pegasus in their name tomorrow on the Saturday card. We talked a little bit about the big one, the Pegasus World Cup Invitational. There are a couple of turf races as well, Pegasus World Cup Turf and the Pegasus World Cup Filly and Mare Turf. How do you see either of those races shaping up?
Well, it's interesting. I have an interest in a couple of things as it relates to the Filly and Mare Turf, where we did have some scratches in there. So we're going to have I think it's just a field of 8 after it's all said and done. Shantasara, a good colleague of mine and a very sharp guy, Brian Natto, thinks that she is an absolute universal cinch and thinks she will be bet accordingly. I don't know if I agree with either one of those things because she was so good in 2021. You know, she won 3 in a row and blew the doors off them in the QE2 at Keeneland, then was freshened up, got beaten to Jenny Wiley behind Regal Glory, who won the Pegasus Filly and Mare Turf that year. And then she wasn't seen again until November of this past fall, and she ran awful at even money, losing to Wakanaka. So her fastball is definitely way better than anybody else's in here, but she hasn't brought her fastball since at least April of last year. So at a short number, I'm going to swing against. I kind of like the horse at a bit of a price in there, Bobby, the 7 Lady Rockstar. She was excellent last time out, and she did not have a good post position that day. The waters are quite a bit deeper, but she has the benefit of having the second start of the form cycle. So she ran a career figure last time out, first start off the shelf, and I have to believe that Brendan Walsh didn't have her fully cranked for that race. So if she continues to progress, I think she has an upset possibility.
In the 12th race, the Pegasus World Cup Turf, a big question mark that I think a lot of handicappers are going to have is Ivor going to be as good at a 1.1 miles as he has been at a mile?
Yeah, and that is the real question, because if he's as good at a 1.1 miles that he is at a mile, this race is over before it gets started. I just don't think they're in his league. But, you know, that is a huge question. But the one thing I will say, in defense of people who don't think he wants a 1.1 miles, remember one thing, the Gulfstream Park turf course carries horses much more so than other turf courses. So maybe he doesn't want a mile and an eighth at Belmont, but a mile and an eighth at Gulfstream is a completely different animal.
In the 8th race, the inside information, we're probably going to have a short price favorite in obligatory. And I'm going to ask this question of Dave Friedman on the upcoming Weekend Stakes preview. Is she just simply faster than these, and that's all there is to it?
Yeah, I think so. She she can handle this racetrack. I mean, one of the things that I always like to look at in trying to poke holes in big favorites is that have they had success over this course? And she's actually never tasted defeat on this course in 2 races. So to me, she's the lock of the day, and I'm glad you actually brought that up, because if she comes with anything close to her best stuff, they won't know where she went.
All right, she's 7-5 on the morning line. I know you don't want to lay her too low, but what do you think is a fair price if you're looking to bet to win on obligatory?
Honestly, I'll probably catch heat with some of your sharper viewers for saying that, but if you can get even money on her, I would walk just briskly to the windows for that.
No, I think that's right, because if you're doing the morning line correctly and doing the system, which I know you do, if you lay a horse 4-5 or even money, then you're having to put real high prices on other horses that feels uncomfortable to do that. So when you lay her 7-5, I think we kind of all figured that she's going to be somewhere around even money.
Well, can you do me a favor? Can you get your producer or Lee to send me that sound clip you just said about blowing up horses on the morning line? Because I'd like to play that for everybody in the world who questions sometimes why I don't, as you would say, blow out the horse on the morning line. And it's for that exact reason, because you have no ground to stand on if you make a horse 8-1 on the morning line that gets crushed because you made another horse 4-5 that didn't go off 4-5. So there's certainly nothing wrong, in my opinion, with making a horse 7-5, knowing full well she's going to be odds on. But then at least that way, if there is some sort of crazy money or some horse wins, you don't feel like a fool. I'd always rather miss low than high.
Well,
the other way around.
The truth of the matter is, and as somebody who's done the morning line at points during my career, there's 2 ways of looking at it. If you want to be honest with the morning line and lay a horse 3-5 who you think is going to be 3-5, that's fine and all, but there's a good chance that you're driving away handle, because there are people out there who will look at a race and say, I'm not going to bet that this horse is going to be 3-5. The horse 3-5 on the morning line, I'm not interested. You lay a horse 7-5, yeah, I think most of us figure she's going to be 4-5, even money in there, but maybe you get a little bit more action as far as people looking at the win or the vertical wagers. You get people maybe less singling, more spreading in the horizontal wagers. I think it helps the handle, actually, when they're a little higher than what you actually think these low-price runners, these somewhere around odds-on runners.
Well, now you have to send me 2 sound clips, because I couldn't agree with every word you just said any more than you just said it. That's so right.
Yeah, I can understand why you do it. Pete, I really appreciate you taking the time. Drive safe home. Get a good night's sleep. You're going to be at it all day tomorrow, and we will be watching, my friend.
Thanks, Bobby. Always great to talk to you.
Pete Aiello doing a fantastic job down at Gulfstream. He always has. Really great with his calls, and looking forward to hearing him again today on a huge, huge day of racing in South Florida. Pegasus World Cup Day. You've got the Pegasus World Cup Turf. We're going to continue to talk about those races as I move throughout the show here this morning. Florent Geroux is set to join me at 9 o'clock. Trainer Ryan Hansen at 9:20, and Frank Stronach at 9:40. And then Joe Kristufek going to be with me coming up at 10 o'clock Eastern with the TwinSpires Triple Play. 3 races you can keep an eye on later today. And one of those races is going to be the Southwest Stakes at Oaklawn. Not going to neglect the 3-year-olds and that major Derby stepping stone here in late January. We'll talk about that race at 10 o'clock. So plenty of things coming your way. But when I come back, we're going to turn our attention back to the Eclipse Awards. Jockey Jose Antonio Gomez was honored with the Eclipse for Champion Apprentice Jockey of 2022, and he's with me next here on the Equine Forum. But that comes your way right after your Legends of the Turf.
On Saturday afternoon, August 31st, 1955, at Washington Park in the suburbs of the Windy City, Chicago, on the shores of Lake Michigan, 2 giants of the world of thoroughbred racing were about to square off in a rubber match, as it were. Each had defeated the other during the year, and the arguments amongst fans and horsemen alike had been raging all year long as to which one indeed was the best, Nashua or Swaps. Nashua, the son of Nasrullah, was racing in the colors of Belair Stud, was conditioned by the venerable Sonny Jim Fitzsimmons, and had the crafty, wily, hard-nosed, heady Eddie Arcaro in the saddle. Swaps, that year's Kentucky Derby winner, in which he whipped Nashua, by the way, was owned by Rex Ellsworth, trained by Mish Tenney, and had the services of Willie Shoemaker as his reinsman. The two stellar stalwarts were equally weighted, and the distance was 1 1/4 miles. The strategy was put forth in the paddock as follows. Fitzsimmons told Arcaro to, quote, keep the other horse busy all the way and let the best horse win, unquote. Tenney told Shoemaker, quote, save a little horse at all times and run when you have to, ride him as you always have, unquote. The track surface at Washington that day was on the slow side and drying out, and that, as it turned out, was most probably a key factor in the race itself. Nashua, breaking from post 2, went away very quickly under solid urging from Arcaro and assumed an early lead. Swaps, breaking from post 4, was hustled up by Shoemaker, who would have none of Arcaro's attempted ploy, and they were both soon side by side. They were right together, with Nashua holding the slightest of leads as they went the first quarter in 23 flat, the half in 46 flat, and the first 6 panels in 1:10 and 2. On down the backside and on into the turn, they remained exactly the same. Between the 3/8 pole and the quarter pole, smack in the middle of the turn, it appeared Swaps was ready to make his big move. As they came off the top of the turn to the straight, the wily Arcaro took Nashua out off the rail just a little bit to find a more solid footing, and Shoemaker had a choice to make, to either drop down to the fence where the going was deep and tiring, or to go to the overland route. Schumacher opted to take his mount out and around, if indeed he could. Well, by this time, Nashua had opened a clear lead, and Swaps was a beaten horse. Nashua continued to increase his margin through the final 3/16 to ultimately cross the wire, a 6.5 length winner in a final time of 2:04 in the deep going. The key to the race was, without any shadow of the doubt, the impeccable strategy of Arcaro, who lived up to the fullest his reputation as a master reinsman, and the affectionate moniker of Heady Eddie. Every time Shoemaker had let Swaps put a notch on the backside and into the far turn, Arcaro had responded in kind with Nashua, and that stratagem on the turn, when forcing Swaps out some, was the work of a true artist in the saddle. After the race, Shoemaker said he felt Swaps did not take a liking to the track condition and surface, and it was later learned that his right foreleg, on the foot of which he wore a protective leather pad between frog and shoe, had gone lame. Nevertheless, the score had been settled, the way it should have been, on the racetrack, against each other. August 31st, 1955, Washington Park in the Windy City. A great moment in thoroughbred racing.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up, and if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast, with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Sam Houston's live thoroughbred meet runs through April 8th and features a new afternoon racing schedule for 2023, with racing Friday through Sunday and a first post at 1 p.m. Central. The meet is highlighted by the Houston Racing Festival on Saturday, January 28th, Texas Preview Day on February 18th, and Texas Champions Day March 25th. Canadian racing fans are invited to play Sam Houston at simulcast outlets throughout Canada and on HPI Bet. For more information, visit shrp.com.
New to Coolmore America for 2023 is Jack Kristufek. A son of top sire Munnings and a 3-time Grade 1 winner, Jack Kristufek was an 8 3/4 length winner on debut at Saratoga at 2 before winning the Grade 1 Champagne with a whopping 102 Beyer. His 3-year-old campaign included wins in the Grade 2 Pat Day Mile, the Grade 1 Woody Stevens by 10 lengths, and the Grade 1 H. Allen Jerkins. Jack Kristufek stands at an introductory fee of $45,000. Call the team at Ashford today to book your mare before he fills up.
Racing fans, Santa Anita's Classic Meet is underway, and there has never been a better time to experience world-class racing and so much more at the Great Race Place. Join us on Saturday for some outstanding simulcast action from Gulfstream Park in Florida. They'll have 7 graded stakes, highlighted by the Grade 1 $3 million Pegasus World Cup Invitational. Also on Saturday, you can play in the Pegasus World Cup Betting Challenge, compete on track to win cash, as well as entries into the 2023 or 2024 NHC or the 2023 Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge. For more information, visit SantaAnita.com. Our live racing on Saturday will be highlighted by a pair of $200,000 stakes, the Grade 2 San Pasquale and the Grade 3 Las Virgenes for 3-year-old fillies at 1 mile. Fans, don't miss the first coast-to-coast Pick 5 each weekend. It's a $1 minimum bet with a player-friendly 15% takeout covering 5 races from Santa Anita and Gulfstream Park.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
On the extreme outside, Fingal has made up some ground. Then it is Land, Biscuit, and Purple Hearted. They are all chasing a Top Gun Tommy, who leads into the stretch. 3/4 went in 1:11-2. Top Gun Tommy has built an 8-length lead. Fingal, and on the outside, Wicked Indeed. They are heads apart, second and third. Top Gun Tommy's in front. Wicked Indeed is second. Top Gun Tommy has the lead under 10-pound apprentice Jose Gomez. Top Gun Tommy the winner. Wicked Indeed was second. Very close for third between Fingal and Purple Hearted.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires here on HRRN. John Embriel with the call. Top Gun Tommy. That's where it all started for now champion apprentice jockey Jose Antonio Gomez. That was in 2021, in October of 2021 at Belmont Park. And now he joins me as a champion jockey, and that has to be music to his ears. Jose, good morning. Appreciate a few minutes.
Good morning. How you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Are you still on Cloud 9 after getting your picture taken and receiving that trophy on Thursday night?
Yeah, of course. That's not something you forget. The next day, we got to go back to work. Got to go on with the regular scheduled program.
What was going through your mind as you were listening to that call of Top Gun Tommy?
Well, after I was like, wow, that horse Top Gun Tommy had a real special place in my heart, honestly, because I was galloping him. with Kelly Breen, and he was a really cool horse, really nice, real classy guy. And when I got the opportunity to ride him, I knew we were gonna do something. And like I said, coming down the stretch, I heard a little bit, the guy calling. I was like, wow, thank God, got the first one out the way.
Yeah, that's a huge monkey off your back. I know that for any jockey. It's great to get that first one. It gives you confidence that you can do this, that you can play this game. And, when I reached out to Kelly and asked him if he had your phone number so I could reach out and invite you to come on the show, I said, we've never had the chance to talk, Jose, but I said, Kelly, he seems like a great kid. And Kelly said, that's an understatement. He's a terrific kid. So to hear those words from a guy like Kelly Breen, who was so instrumental in getting you started, what's that mean, Jose?
I mean, honestly, I always like to think of it like he's seen the potential I had, and because I like to work hard. I like to, when it's time to work, that's what we got to do. That's what we're here for, and it really makes me feel real good, that Kelly, and he has my back. He's there for me.
Walk me back to Thursday night and sitting there at the Eclipse Awards waiting to see if your name is going to be the one that's called. What are those moments like in the lead up to the announcement, and then what was it like when you finally heard your name?
Honestly, when I was sitting there, I had my whole group of people with me. It was great. I was just trying to take it all in, because I work a lot, I was happy to be around my mom, my sister, just enjoying their company. And when the time started getting close, you try to stay as calm as you can. And really, that's it. Just try to stay calm. I was a bit nervous, of course, but just try to stay as relaxed as I could.
How cool was it standing up on that stage?
Oh, it was breathtaking. Quite literally, I've never spoke in front of an audience like that. So it was a cool experience.
Yeah, I can imagine you were probably even more nervous then than you were when you were going into the starting gate with your first horse ever.
Yeah. Honestly, the gate. I've always liked the gate. I've always really liked the gate. So starting off, I've always kind of got the got the hang of it pretty quick.
Jose, when you talk to athletes, you hear them talk about the game that they play slowing down as they get more experience. Is it like that for a jockey too, as you kind of go through? And look, you're still you're still very early on in your career, but is it like that for a jockey? The game starts to kind of slow down, or certain aspects do?
Yes, sir, 100%. Honestly, I could honestly tell you from when I started to now that things move a bit slower. You kind of have better reaction time to things, and of course that just comes with practice and doing it.
Well, whatever you're doing, keep doing it because it's working. You're born in Michigan, but you traveled to racetracks with your mom, who was a groom. Your dad was an exercise rider and rode a few races. So you kind of bounced around as a kid from Florida to Kentucky, spent some time at Penn National. Walk me through the early days of Jose Antonio Gomez before you even started riding.
Early days, I would go to work with my mom. She was a groom, of course, and I just help her out, clean buckets, and help her empty the wheelbarrows, from the stalls, and just doing stuff like that. My mom really gave me a good work ethic. Early mornings, of course, and long days, but that's what you got to do. And it was a little tough, as a kid, but I'm grateful for those life experiences.
Yeah, and look, you're traveling with them. They work at the racetrack, so as their child, you're traveling along with them. But there are other things outside of racing that need to take place in people's lives, and one of those is education. So how are you able to keep up with your schoolwork as you were moving from Florida to Kentucky to Pennsylvania? That seems like it would be a major challenge.
Yeah, it was. When I was young, we settled down in Pennsylvania for quite a while. So I was living there. I was going to school there. In between, I tried to do online school. It wasn't working. Honestly, I'm not even gonna lie. I wasn't big on school. I always thought about I always had the mentality I don't need this. I graduated high school, of course, which I'm grateful for now. But in those times, it is a little difficult trying to stay focused on school when you have other things on your mind. But I have to give a lot of credit to my sister. My younger sister, she helped me a lot. She's pretty smart. And yeah, the bouncing around part, it was tough. But like I said, I was in Pennsylvania for quite a while, and then I only moved to Florida for the remainder of my high school years, which was maybe 3 years. So it wasn't too bad, the moving around all the time.
Was riding races all you ever wanted to do?
Yes, sir. I can tell you that 100%. Since a kid, I've always just wanted to ride races.
You started breaking babies for Demerick Stable down in Florida after you did graduate school. You talk about baptism under fire. I mean, working with those young horses and breaking babies, you're going to learn a lot from those experiences.
100%. I always like thinking of it as, well, I was a new rider, so I was a new rider and they were new to this whole game. So I always like thinking as a I help you, you help me type of thing. They really teach you and you teach them.
What lessons can a young jockey learn by breaking babies that helps you when you get to the races and start riding?
First thing, I always like thinking that breaking babies is a good foundation because it really helps your balance. You know, those babies, they don't have they're not super strong. They don't want to like just run off with you, but they are a little nervous. You know, they might want to, duck and wheel a little bit. So it really helps with your balance and just control of a horse. I'd say that.
Well, whatever you did in those early days, it's paying dividends now. You learned your lessons extremely well. Talking with Eclipse champion apprentice jockey Jose Antonio Gomez here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Jose, you've also developed a very special bond with Angel Cordero Jr., the great Hall of Famer. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, that's, again, thanks to Kelly. He hooked me up with Angel. I was galloping for him and for Kelly and Monmouth, and he brought me up to Belmont one day to work a couple horses, and he introduced me to him. And I worked a couple horses, and Angel seen. I want to think he thought I had some potential, and we kept going from there.
Angel has the distinction of, working with and befriending John Velasquez. And Johnny, one of the greatest ever to do it, just like Angel Cordero. Were you a little bit starstruck when you first started talking with Angel?
Yeah, of course. I mean, he's a legend. I just try to be respectful, and try to learn as much as I could, because a bunch of good guys, a bunch of not just great great guys come from Angel, Johnny, Manny, Eric, guys that are still here, and. I mean, it was at first, I thought of it as like I have to fill some big shoes and whatnot, but of course, I was starstruck for sure.
What riders did you idolize when you were growing up and before you got into riding?
Growing up, I honestly. Well, I was growing up around Penn National, so I'd watch some of those guys over there. But my uncle, one of my uncles, he was real friends. We're good friends with a bunch of Louisiana riders. So I'd always look at a bunch of Louisiana riders like Mark Guidry, Shane Sellers, Calvin Burrell, guys like them.
Now, some of the big names in the sport for sure, and some of the good guys too that would have no problem taking a rider under their wing. Have you had riders some more experienced riders in the jocks room kind of take you under their wing a little bit, other than Angel Cordero, of course, but have there been other active riders that have taken you under the wing and said, hey, do this, you've got all kinds of talent, do this, and you can be great?
Yeah, honestly, one of the guys that comes to mind is Kendrick Caramouche. He's giving me a few pointers. He's helping me out here and there. He tells me if I do something, I can improve on. He lets it be known for sure.
If you could emulate one veteran rider today and say, this is who I want to be when I get to where I want to get to, what rider would it be?
For sure, it'd have to be Cordero or Pinkai. Those two guys are top level for me.
Yeah, two great choices too. If you can come anywhere near those two, you're going to be in the Hall of Fame for sure, Jose. Before I let you go, what do you do for an encore here in 2023? How do you top this season?
I mean, just keep working hard. just keep going. Honestly, I mean, there's not much else really now. Just try to improve, and hopefully in later years, I make it back to the awards as a journeyman.
Well, with that work ethic and the people you have around you, it's hard to believe that you wouldn't. So, Jose, really appreciate the visit here this morning. I know you're working horses this morning, so I'll let you go. But congratulations again, and stay safe every time you get a leg up, my friend.
All right, thank you very much. Have a good one.
All right, the ultra-talented Jose Antonio Gomez, fresh off of that Apprentice Eclipse Award on Thursday. That was a great answer. You can see him choosing Angel Cordero Jr. as somebody that he would like to emulate throughout his career and maybe get to that level. I mean, who wouldn't? But Lafitte Penkai, too. For somebody so young like Jose, somebody that grew up on the East Coast, I was kind of expecting another East Coast rider, maybe Johnny. But to hear him go with Lafitte, what a great choice. And two classy people with Angel and Lafitte. If he can emulate them outside of the racetrack and do what they do away from the races and represent the game in that fashion, boy, the sky's the limit for Jose Antonio Gomez, and my thanks to him for taking time here this morning. All right, coming up next, it is this week's edition of Calling All 3-Year-Olds presented by Spendthrift with our very own Bobby Neuman, and then I will get you ready for hour number 2. I'll update the poll question as well. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Hi, Tony. Hey, Matthew. There's a reason why Tony's Steaks and Seafood is my favorite restaurant. It's because I want to feel part of the family. Isn't that right, Tony?
That's right. There's a saying on the wall that I truly believe in. There's always room for one more at our table. We just want you to be part of our family.
And believe me, you will be. It's Tony's Steaks and Seafood right across from Triangle Park. Visit them at TonySteaksandSeafood.com.
Did you receive a call or message that mentioned Social Security and demanded immediate action? Did the caller know your Social Security number or other personal information and tell you that your Social Security number had been used in connection with the crime? Did you feel worried that your Social Security number might be suspended? Your bank account might be frozen or seized, or you could be arrested? That is not the Social Security Administration. Social Security will not threaten you, demand your personal information, or instant payment, email or text you pictures or documents, or use a real government official's name to gain your trust. Social Security does not accept payments by gift card, prepaid debit card, internet currency, or by mailing cash. Criminals use these forms of payment because they are hard to trace. Do not be fooled. Hang up. Ignore them. Report this criminal activity to the Social Security Administration Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
James Brown and Bill Cowher welcoming you back to Dennis Melvin's house. It's time for the Midnight Snack Run.
This is one tricky obstacle course. Sticking to healthy habits in this kitchen is going to take focus and determination, but it can be done, JB.
He's already entered the snack part of the course, and he's eyeballing a jar of chocolatey candy.
That is tempting right off the start.
Uh-oh. He's reaching, Bill, but he pushes it away.
Great stiff arm.
He's approaching a plate of delicious-looking iced cookies.
Oh, Dennis, you only want one of those.
He blows right by him for the apple.
Oh, the fridge. It's make or break time, JB.
He stares down some rich-looking treats. Uh-oh. Looks like he's headed for the soda. Wait, he jukes left, grabs the water bottle, and shuts the door with his elbow in record time.
Unbelievable move. I gotta see that again.
And he's out. He even turned off the light.
That's the way you execute a midnight snack run.
Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
Hi, this is jockey Brian Hernandez. For me, there's no bigger thrill than crossing the finish line in front, and nobody captures the excitement of our sport like Horse Racing Radio Network. Each week, HRRN brings you exclusive talk shows, podcasts, and in-depth conversations with the biggest names in racing, jockeys, trainers, owners, and more. Plus, HRRN is committed to helping disabled riders through their support of the PDJF. So climb aboard a winner today by visiting horseracingradio.net.
They're all in line. And they're off.
Spendthrift Farm presents Calling All 3-Year-Olds with Bobby Neuman.
Fairgrounds took center stage for the 3-year-olds last Saturday as they hosted the Grade 3 LeCompte Stakes at 1 1/16. Brad Cox seems to hold a lot of cards in this year's 3-year-old deck, and he sent out one of his aces, Instant Coffee, as the 6-5 favorite. Similar to his winning style in the Kentucky Jockey Club at Churchill last November, he sat far back early and was able to swoop past them all for a worst-to-first victory. The official margin was 2.5 lengths over 2 fills, and the running time was 1 minute 45 seconds. Instant Coffee earned another 20 Kentucky Derby qualifying points with the win, and now sits second in the standings with 32, only behind the 40 points of 2-year-old Champ Forte. Instant Coffee may await the Louisiana Derby on March 25th for his next start. Oaklawn is in the 3-year-old spotlight this weekend with today's Grade 3 Southwest Stakes. The purse is a massive $750,000, and this easily looks like the toughest 3-year-old stake of 2023 thus far. 7 of the 9 runners are coming off wins, including stakes winners Corona Bolt, Jace's Road, and Frosted Departure. Bob Baffert's Arabian Night ships in from Southern California and makes his much-anticipated sophomore debut as well. But he's not eligible for the Derby points as of now. All others in the race will be trying to earn the 20 points available to the winner. Next week will be a busy one with 3 Derby preps on the docket: the Withers at Aqueduct, the Holy Bull at Gulfstream, and the Robert B. Lewis at Santa Anita. Each one offers 20 points to the winner if they're eligible. I'll be back with this week's top 5 list right after this word from Spendthrift.
Spendthrift Farm introduces new for 2023 Classic winner Mo Donegal. A leading 2-year-old of his class, Mo Donegal won the Grade 2 Remsen Stakes to close out his juvenile campaign before going on to win the Grade 2 Wood Memorial and Grade 1 Belmont Stakes as a 3-year-old, joining Nyquist as Classic winners by Uncle Mo.
And it will be Mo Donegal to win the Test of the Champion, the Belmont Stakes.
Mo Donegal became the first horse this century to capture New York's prestigious Remsen at 2 and Wood Memorial at 3. Mo Donegal, the newest Classic winner, standing at Spendthrift.
This week's top 5 list of Derby contenders looks like this. Number 5, Giant Mischief, son of Into Mischief, should improve as the distances increase, pointing for the Rebel at Oaklawn on February 25th. Number 4, Jace's Road, looked great in the Gun Runner, runs today in the Southwest at Oaklawn. Number 3, Cave Rock, looked nervous and uncomfortable prior to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and finished second when clearly not at his best. He's capable of better. Number 2, Forte, the Breeders' Cup champ, is back in training. Next start likely the Fountain of Youth at Gulfstream on March 4th. And number 1, Arabian Night, the Baffert trainee, isn't eligible for Derby points yet, but his maiden win on the Breeders' Cup Saturday undercard was monstrous, and he runs today in the Southwest at Oaklawn. That's your Calling All 3-Year-Old segment, presented by Spendthrift, the Breeders' Farm.
And the Kentucky Derby edging ever closer, now less than 100 days until we get to the Run for the Roses. 98 days, 8 hours, 47 minutes, and 43 seconds away, and that'll warm me up a little bit thinking about the first Saturday in May for those of you who are experiencing the chilly conditions throughout much of the United States here this morning. Hour 2 kicks off with Florent Geroux. He joins me at 9 o'clock Eastern. Looking forward to that conversation. He'll talk about riding Cyberknife. He'll talk about his 2000th career win. He reached that milestone on Thursday. Over the course of the last 8 days, there have been 3 jockeys, Tyler Gaffalione, Junior Alvarado, and Florent Geroux, to reach the 2000 win milestone. And looking forward to talking with Florent to kick things off. Ryan Hansen, who has a couple of horses running in big stakes this weekend, including one more bid in the Pegasus World Cup Turf. He's also represented by the only horse not trained by Bob Baffert in tomorrow's San Vicente Stakes at Santa Anita. I'll talk to Ryan coming up at 9:20, and at 9:40, Frank Stronach will join me to talk about the empire he has built at Adena Springs, the success he has had. He'll talk about his breeding philosophies. He'll talk about the concept that was in place when the Pegasus World Cup was first introduced, when he came up with that. I remember being there. It was at the Ownerview Conference at Gulfstream that year, and he made the announcement that they were thinking about this $12 million race. Where did that come from? We'll talk to him about that coming up at 9:40. 10 o'clock, Joe Kristufek with this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. 10:20, Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly stroll through racing history. And at 10:30, I Ask, They Answer with trainer Dale Romans, turf writer Tim Wilkin. We're going to talk about a lot of different topics, including some of those Eclipse categories. Did the voters get those right or wrong? That comes up at 10:30 Eastern. Poll question today. Which long shot has the best chance to upset today's Pegasus World Cup at Gulfstream? White-Abarrio, Art Collector, O'Connor, or other? And if you choose other, please specify, comment, let me know which horse you think it's going to be, other than White-Abarrio, Art Collector, or O'Connor. So far, 57% of HRRN Nation is saying it is going to be White-Abarrio. And I can see that. I told you at the top of the show, he's the horse I would have my eye on. 4 for 4 at Gulfstream, training well for his return. I think he was just getting good again at the end of 2022. So I can see why White-Abarrio is getting a lot of respect in here. If you don't do social media, by the way, you can go to @HRRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook to cast your vote for that poll question. But if you don't do social media, you can email the show, Mike@horseracingradio.net. Trish in Colorado emails and says, Get Her Number is the upsetter for her. 15-1. Why? Talks about jockey Luis Saez being in the irons and says the last race in the Cigar Mile with that sustained run showed grit, finishing second to Mind Control. So for Trish in Colorado, it is going to be Get Her Number, who is hoping to get the right number later today in the Pegasus World Cup. So keep those votes coming. We'll continue on here in hour number 2, right after I pause 10 seconds for station identification and your Visit Barbados racing update. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Fans of graded stakes races will get their fill this weekend. 14 graded events are set to be contested across the U.S., and half of those will be run on Gulfstream's Pegasus World Cup program. Cyberknife looks to add another Grade 1 to his resume in the $3 million Pegasus World Cup in what is expected to be his final career start for trainer Brad Cox. Hall of Fame trainer Bob Baffert will look to add to his record number of World Cup wins with California Invader Defunded, who makes the cross-country pilgrimage to South Florida, while Proxy, Art Collector, and Gulfstream-loving White-Abarrio all figure prominently in a loaded renewal. 3-year-olds are in the spotlight at Oaklawn in the Grade 3 Southwest. The field of 9 includes stakes winners Jace's Road, Corona Bolt, and promising maiden graduates Arabian Night and El Tomate. And that's your Visit Barbados racing update, brought to you by Barbados Tourism. Learn more at visitbarbados.org.
If you've been waiting to discover that sweet spot where peace of mind meets the time of your life, then it sounds like you've been waiting on Barbados. You've been waiting to experience a meal that makes you book a flight to have it again. You've been waiting for adventure in the sun, from the majesty of horse racing and polo to the thrill of surfing our playful waves. From the moment you set foot on the island, you will realize Barbados is exactly what you've been waiting for. Visit jetblue.com/Barbados for special vacation packages.
This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Welcome back. Hour number 2 of the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna, bearing in the backstretch, with you as always on this Saturday morning, the final Saturday in the month of January, now less than 100 days away from the Kentucky Derby. Going to talk about the Southwest Stakes at Oaklawn later in the show, 10 o'clock Eastern, with Joe Kristufek and this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. That is one of the 3 races Joe has selected to talk about, so we'll do that coming up at 10 Eastern. If you missed any portion of the first hour of the program, that conversation with Gulfstream announcer Pete Aiello or with newly crowned Eclipse champion apprentice jockey Jose Antonio Gomez, all you have to do is head back to the website, horseracingradio.net. You can listen to the podcast at your leisure, and you can do that on every major podcast platform. So however you get your podcast, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Podbean, Google, whatever it is, just type in Horse Racing Radio Network and start listening to all of our shows at your leisure. Massive day at Gulfstream with the Pegasus World Cup Pegasus World Cup Turf, all those great stakes on the undercard. And jockey Florent Geroux is going to be prominent in all of those, including the World Cup, where he'll ride Cyberknife. But on Thursday, Florent experienced yet another very memorable moment in his career, and here's the way it sounded.
3/4 in 1 minute 14.35 seconds. Mailman Money runs at Warrant, but Warrant leads the way with Flo a furlong away from 2K. It's Warrant who's finding, holds Mailman Money with on the outside Cash Logistics. They're close to home. It's Warrant, Mailman Money. Warrant comes back on top to make it 2,000 career wins for Florent Geroux. Warrant holds Mailman Money. Cash Logistics finished third.
Well, he had to work for it, but he did get it. Number 2,000, the newest member of the 2,000 win club among jockeys. The 36-year-old native of France is with me now here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Flo, always a delight to catch up, and congratulations.
Well, thank you, guys, and thank you for having me today.
All right, so you're listening to John Dooley with the call there, and Warrant getting up to win. You get the monkey off your back, if you will. You described it as being a big relief, not having to worry about this anymore. Take me back to that moment. What was it like coming through the stretch? Were you thinking about 2,000 when you were coming down the lane?
But to be honest, no, I was thinking about it before when I went in the paddock, but when I rode the horse, I didn't think. I was just focused on my race and trying to get the best possible trip, and of course, trying to win the race. But it's not really something you think about. Numbers or things like that. It's more like the prior to before when the gates open.
Yeah, I've had several jockeys come on the show and talk about, I'll bring up the fact that, hey, you've won more runnings of this race than any jockey in history, or you're closing in on this milestone, and most of the time, jockeys don't even know that they're getting close to these, but you obviously knew you were close to 2,000, one win away. So in the lead up to that race, in the days leading up to it, what were those days like? Was there a lot of pressure?
Actually, it was not. I came on Saturday. I remember it was 1,998 wins, and I won the very first race. And the horse wasn't favorite. He was like maybe 10-1 or something. And I had a pretty busy day on Saturday. It was Le Comte Day at the fairground, and we had 14 races, and I think I had another 6 or 7 races to ride and a couple of favorites. I'm like, oh, it's probably going to be today. And unfortunately, I think I had 4 seconds that day, so I'm like, oh, that's not meant to be. So I just kept on trying, but I knew it probably would have been the next following week, having Warrant coming off a layoff as a big favorite. And yesterday, Stroll, also for Brad, who will be going big favorite also. So I knew I had 2 big chances before Saturday to win my 2,000 race. Sorry.
Yeah, well, you win with Warrant. That gives you 2,000. You mentioned Strobe, who you won aboard yesterday at the fairgrounds. So now you're at 2,001. I'll give you this number. You're only 999 wins away from 3,000.
Yeah, you're very good at math, I can tell you that.
Well, don't start thinking about that number yet, because you've got some big things to do coming up later this afternoon with Cyberknife. I want to get to that in a minute, but when you think back on these now 2001 career victories, Flo, what moments come to mind for you that you're never going to forget in your career?
It's very simple. The day I decided to jump on a plane and come to America from France, I was just checking out, the country, the culture, the races, and I just fell in love with it and just decided to stay. I did everything in order to get my paperwork done. Patrick Biancon helped me with everything with that. Got a lawyer for me and start getting the ball rolling with my working visa. And from there, when I was legal, I came back and start riding. So that was the beginning of this big journey. And when I reflect on everything, it's very simple. A lot of very hard work and dedication, and lots of ups, but also a lot of downs. Never give up. Always kept on fighting and kept working hard.
Yeah, I think it's like any athlete in any sport. You're going to face adversity throughout your career, and it's how you deal with that adversity that makes you better going forward. And you've certainly done that, and now you're sitting here on the top of your game and continuing to win races and bunches. How about the horses? If you think back on some of the horses you've been aboard that will always stand out to you, some of those horses, who would they be?
There's so many. It's funny because even started back in Illinois, racetrack like Hawthorne and Arlington. Even back at the time over there, I had the privilege to ride some of the best local horses, which was great. Even there was like some smaller state-bred stakes races, but they were the best at the time. So I kept winning on those. And of course, when it came, my first big victory, my first Grade 1 win, and my first Breeders' Cup mount on Worker Week in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. I think he's probably the one who probably got the ball rolling, who got me known in a big stage. And after that, when the horse, when you have a big victory like this, people thought, oh, maybe this guy just got lucky, and right away I was able to repeat it the next following year with Catch a Glimpse for Mark Cassie and Mongolian Saturday for Enabish Gambat. So there was already three Breeders' Cup victories, and I think from that there was just a snowball effect, and a lot of trainers and owner gave me opportunity at the highest level, and that was great, and thank them again, even right now for their support.
Yeah, I'll never forget some of the performances of the Pizza Man when you were aboard, and Gunrunner, of course. We need to talk about Gunrunner and his career and what you did with him. And now, by the way, it's a great segue because we turn our attention to the Pegasus World Cup, and we talk about the son of Gunrunner that you're going to ride, Cyberknife, who is the 5-2 morning line favorite today. Not only is he a son of Gunrunner, but he is also going to break from the very same post, number 10, that Gunrunner broke from when you won the Pegasus World Cup on him a few years back. So some similarities there that are working in your favor.
Yeah, exactly. Gunrunner, like you said, very significant horse for me and my career. It's very hard to find another one like him. And now he's very successful also as a stallion, like you guys can see. And yeah, it's fun actually. I feel like, I'm getting old, because riding a son of Gunrunner now in the same race 5 years later. But no, just to tell you how good Gunrunner is also as a stallion. So this is his first year, and that's his first 4-year-old crop. He's a year younger. He's a little bit less polished than Gunrunner was at the time. But I believe 4-year-old probably would have been his best year if he kept on running, but unfortunately, it's going to be his last race today. I'm excited for opportunity. To be honest, I don't think post position sometimes can be a little bit overrated. I think as long as the horse, have a fair start, break good, take a good position, and most of the good horses they make it happen for you. If you have a bad post, they break good, they're in a good position, and this is it. Everybody forget about it, and if you can't take position and you hang, very wide in the first turn, then it gets a little more complicated. But I think the horse dictate the race more than the post position.
Well, and you mentioned that this is his final start. It will be start number 13. He'll go off to stud at Spendthrift Farm after this. You are the only jockey that Cyberknife has ever known, so you know him extremely well, just like you knew his father, Gunrunner. So what's the key to Cyberknife winning the Pegasus World Cup later today? What's he have to do?
Just work well and running, have a fair start, and look like there's, a good amount of speed in the race. He's a horse who can position himself very well. I'm hoping, of a good break and be in a good rhythm. It doesn't really matter the position, to be honest. I don't think I'm going to be right behind the horse on lead on the rail. You need to be realistic. But it's probably going to be stalking, behind few speed horses, maybe somewhere on mid-pack, something like that. And start making his run when horses are getting tired in front of him. So I'm looking maybe almost a similar trip than what I had with him in Breeders' Cup Mile, just because of post position and pace scenario too.
You joked a few minutes ago that you feel like you're getting old now because 5 years later you're riding a son of Gun Runner in the same race that he won. Your preparation coming into a big race like this, Flo, is it different now than it was 5 years ago with Gun Runner, or do you prepare for these big races the same way?
No, you prepare for the same way, to be honest. There's not really something you do. You're just trying to do your job. And one thing I wanted to do this year is being based back at the fairground and make sure I was able to walk Cyberknife a bunch of times prior to the Pegasus. I think for me, I'm a big believer in teamwork, especially in the morning. Gives me a good sense of how much horse I'm going to have for the Pegasus. And no, the horse is super ready, and I think Brad and his team did a fabulous job, bringing him to the race, and couldn't do any better, and I'm excited about the opportunity, but no special preparation. It's more about the horse than me.
Visiting with jockey Florent Geroux here on the Horse Racing Radio Network, the newest jockey to get into the 2000 Win Club. That victory, you just heard it a short time ago, came Thursday at the fairgrounds, and now he's looking for more graded stakes success in the Pegasus World Cup, the Pegasus World Cup Turf. He's also riding the William L. McKnight and the Inside Information Stakes before they get to the World Cup today. So, Flo, let's work backwards. I'll get a comment on each of those horses from you. In the Pegasus World Cup Turf, you're going to be aboard King Cause. Tell me more about that horse.
Yeah, he's a horse I'm going to ride for the first time. Looked like he ran some good races before here at Gulfstream. So, to be honest, it's a very open race. Look like Ivar probably going to be the favorite, just based on his recent run last year. I believe, to be honest, I think it's very wide open. And if you have a horse like the turf course over there at Gulfstream, it's a big advantage. And just very wide open. I think everybody deserves a chance in the race. And I'm excited to be in it.
What's your preparation like when you're getting ready to ride a horse for the first time in a race like this, as opposed to a horse like Cyberknife, who you know very well?
Well, like any other race, to be honest, you look at the past performance, the PPs. You look at few videos on how those horses, ride in the past, especially on the same, configuration of the track. And sometimes, some other try to watch, few races, five or six replays on how the horse ran and how the horse was ridden, what went right and what went wrong. And just dig in, do a little bit of homework and go from there.
Okay, the William L. McKnight, you'll be aboard Temple, 9-2 on the morning line from Mike Maker. This is a horse that you're going to have to learn about on the fly, too. Tell me about Temple.
Yeah, actually, this guy, I remember, I think I went on him a few years ago at the fairgrounds. It's been a very long time, though.
Okay.
Cool horse. It's not a surprise, but Mike Maker is very dangerous, especially on those marathon races like this on the turf. He's excellent, and he does a great job. I have all faith on him. Same thing, just doing my thing with him, try to have a good race, watch a few replays, and go from there. And I believe the horse is very live and have a good chance.
Well, your man Brad Cox is going to give you a leg up aboard Famed in the Inside Information Stakes. That's the 8th race on the program, the first of the 4 graded stakes you're going to ride today. And you're familiar with Famed. You've been aboard each of the last 2 times. Both of those have been victories. So tell me about Famed.
Yeah, Famed, she shortened back in distance a little bit today. We ran her last time. I think it was a mile or mile 70 yard at Remington. We're a little bit worried about the distance over there. We believe she's a bit better going shorter. even though she's essential quality sister, we thought she would be better with distance, but she's like her. She prefers a little bit shorter. We have the rail, just nice, try to have a clear start, work good and keep her in nice rhythm, and she's in good form. I think the distance, she will like it. She will like the configuration of the 7-8, 7 furlong race. We see look like the filly of Mr. Mott in their obligatory is going to be very tough, but she's coming off a layoff, so why not? I think we're in a good position with her.
Do you need a nap?
Nope.
I thought you were just yawning. I said, geez, I'm going to keep Flo from getting on his A game.
No, I got here yesterday. Everything was on time, and just getting ready to go to the races, actually.
Flo, one last question before I let you go. Despite all the success you've had in your career with these 2001 wins, I know there's still several goals you've set for yourself, several things you want to accomplish moving forward. So what are a couple of those things, those boxes you want to check later in your career here as we move through it?
Well, boxes I would like to check is definitely winning a Triple Crown race. Kentucky Derby, Preakness, or Belmont. The Kentucky Derby I got, doesn't. For me, it's not meaningful. Winning by disqualification, especially a few weeks later, doesn't really excite me. It's not a race you want to win like that. You want to cross the finish line first. So that's something I would like to do. It's very high on my list. Especially the Kentucky Derby. If I have to choose one, I will choose that one before the Preakness or the Belmont. But no, I think I've been very, very lucky and fortunate to ride some of the best horses in the country the past few years, and I was able to win a bunch of the big ones. Just to repeat again, Pegasus or Breeders' Cup Classic, or I don't know, big races like the Oaks or things like that. But I've been lucky enough to win those, and trying to win the one who's missing. It will be my challenge, the bucket list, like you said.
Well, he's one of the best in the game. Florent Geroux with me here on HRRN. Flo, I know you're going to check those boxes eventually. Good luck and safe trip every time you get a leg up, my friend.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks again for having me.
All right, jockey Florent Geroux here on the Horse Racing Radio Network, and he is riding some live horses today, including the favorite in the Pegasus World Cup, Cyberknife. When I come back, I'll turn my attention to the Pegasus World Cup turf. Trainer Ryan Hansen joins me. He's also going to talk about being the only trainer in tomorrow's San Vicente to saddle a horse not named Bob Baffert. There will only be two horses, or two trainers in the paddock before the race, if you will, Ryan and Bob. That's it. It's a 5-horse field. 4 Bafferts, 1 Hansen. I'll talk about that next. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
There's something for everyone this February at Laurel Park. Come watch live horse racing every Friday through Sunday and join us on Saturday, February 18th for the Winter Spectacular Stakes, featuring 6 stakes races and $900,000 in purses, including the Grade 3 General George and the Grade 3 Barbara Fritchie Stakes. Plus, don't miss out on special President's Day holiday racing on Monday, February 20th. Visit laurelpark.com for more info. That's laurelpark.com for more.
Racing fans, Santa Anita's Classic Meet is underway, and there has never been a better time to experience world-class racing and so much more at the Great Race Place. Join us on Saturday for some outstanding simulcast action from Gulfstream Park in Florida. They'll have 7 graded stakes, highlighted by the Grade 1 $3 million Pegasus World Cup Invitational. Also on Saturday, you can play in the Pegasus World Cup Betting Challenge, compete on track to win cash, as well as entries into the 2023 or 2024 NHC or the 2023 Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge. For more information, visit SantaAnita.com. Our live racing on Saturday will be highlighted by a pair of $200,000 stakes, the Grade 2 San Pasquale and the Grade 3 Las Virgenes for 3-year-old fillies at 1 mile. Fans don't miss the first coast-to-coast Pick 5 each weekend. It's a $1 minimum bet with a player-friendly 15% takeout covering 5 races from Santa Anita and Gulfstream Park.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
One more bid second. I'm a Gambler inching a little bit closer. Balnikov swings into action on the outside as the field turns for home. Balnikov is let loose coming after Sumter. I'm a Gambler at the rail. One more bid in between them. It's Balnikov on the outside. One more bid in between, and Sumter hanging tough at the rail. 3 of them come for the wire together. One more bid just in front, close to home. One more bid. Balnikov, here's the line. One more bid. And Balnikov in a photo for the Santa Anita Mathis Mile. Sumter weakened late to get third, then I'm a Gambler.
Frank Miramati with the call of that Mathis Mile, won by one more bid, who goes to the post in the Pegasus World Cup Turf later today at Gulfstream Park. That is race 12. It is the race preceding the Pegasus World Cup. One more bid, trained by Ryan Hansen. 20-1 on the morning line, looking to pull off the upset there. Ryan represented tomorrow in the San Vicente Stakes at Santa Anita by another 20-1 shot, Manchild. And I told you as we were going to break that Manchild, the only horse in that race, 5-horse field, not trained by Bob Baffert. Talk about being a giant killer. He's going to try and do it on both coasts this weekend. Ryan is with me now. Ryan, appreciate the visit, my friend. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, good. I said earlier, you pull off these 2 upsets, and that's it. I mean, Alan Jerkins, you're Alan Jerkins too.
We're just hoping that we're going into the race with healthy, happy horses, and they come out of the race healthy and happy, and we're happy to get an opportunity to race in these kind of races.
Well, we just heard the call of the Mathis Mile, won by one more bid. Take me back to that day. That was a really strong effort, gutsy effort through the stretch.
Yeah, he's always been a horse that has found a little bit of trouble in his races, and the short field was able to keep him out of most trouble, and he did. He ran a really nice race and came out of the race in good shape.
He seems as if he's kind of blossomed a little bit or taken another step forward since you got him on the grass. He's always been consistent, but is it the grass or is it the longer distances that he's excelling at?
He works really well on the dirt. He works and trains on the dirt like he's a really good dirt horse. I think that just getting away from he chased a couple of Bob Baffert horses and some Richard Mandela horses, and like I say, he always found a little bit of trouble. So the last couple of races, he's just been able to stay out of trouble, and that's been, a big help in his corner.
And those 2 races have both been at the 1 mile distance. Today's race, the World Cup Turf, is at 1 1/8 miles. What are you seeing that gives you the confidence that that extra furlong won't be an issue?
After the Mathis Mile, his gallop out was really strong, and he bounced out of the race really well. Wasn't overly tired, and was a happy horse out of the race.
You get to lead him over there, and you get to give a leg up to Hall of Famer Mike Smith. He probably needs no instruction, but how cool is it to go into a race like this with a 20-1 shot and have Mike Smith in your corner?
Oh, it's anytime you get to go into these races, it's really good, and it never hurts when you got Mike on board with you, and we're just super happy to be in this position.
if One More Bid is going to find a way to upset the World Cup turf later today, what has to go right? What are a couple of the keys to victory, other than, of course, running faster than the other horses, but what are some of the keys to victory that need to play out in order for this horse to be successful later today?
Well, he needs to have a clean break and stay out of trouble. He probably needs to be forwardly placed and not find trouble like he has in the past.
And there's nothing a trainer can do about that, right? You can do everything right with the horse in the morning, get him ready for the race, and then once you give a leg up, I mean, the circumstances of the race are out of your control. Can that be a little frustrating?
No, it's a relief because you just got to the races, and if you get to the races with your horse being healthy and happy and training forwardly, that's all you can ask for as a trainer.
Yeah. Ryan Hansen with me here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. One More Bid going to the post in today's Pegasus World Cup turf. Tomorrow, he'll turn his attention to his 3-year-old gelding Manchild, the son of Creative Cause, who is getting set to go against 4 Bob Baffert trainees in the Grade 2 San Vicente. That's going to be a little surreal. You walk into the paddock, and it's just you and Bob. That's it. Of course, you've got a little less to do with just one horse.
Yeah. Got a lot less to do. We've chased Bob a lot, and well, we just hope we get to continue to chase him and maybe one day turn the tables on him. But just real fortunate to be in these positions and be getting a little better quality horses that are putting us in this spot.
Tell me a little bit more about Manchild. Earlier in the show, I played the stretch call of Manchild breaking his maiden at Los Alamitos. That was in July of last year. He's been consistent ever since. His only really poor effort coming in the Grade 1 American Pharaoh behind Cave Rock. Just take me through his story and his career. What have you seen from him that makes you think maybe he can be, a top-class horse eventually?
Well, I don't know that he can be a top-class horse. He's a horse that broke his maiden, and since he's broke his maiden, we haven't had one allowance non-winners or 2 go in Southern California on the dirt. So this is the kind of things, the kind of places that you have to do and run in. And that's why we went to Turf Paradise last time, is to try and just keep him racing and keep him going forward. We'll see what happens. We just hope he runs a big effort. He's a hard trier. He never, doesn't show up. He always gives it his best effort, even if his effort is not as good as everyone else's. And, his part owner, my wife, is a little annoying about the spots we race to, but that's the way it goes.
Well, I'm sure she is. Hey, listen, happy wife, happy life. Put the horse where she wants to run it, man.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, Manchild, 20-1 on the morning line in the San Vicente at Santa Anita tomorrow. You bring up a great point, though. After he breaks his maiden, these allowance races, they're just not filling in Southern California right now, so you're forced with a horse that has any kind of talent to go up against the big boys in some of these graded stakes races. What's the key, Ryan, to getting that situation rectified going forward?
I think that's the $1 million question that Santa Anita and everyone's trying to figure out. I think that the biggest thing I could say is the big barns with the big horses, all the owners keep going to them because they get in spots where, they have the best horse, and you only see Bob Baffert in these positions. Maybe a stall cap might help to where, someone would give other people fortunate, a little better quality horse. But at the end of the day, just, we need more dirt racing. We need more winners races. And to have more winners races, we need to run more maiden races. And, just running more of the maiden races and giving the smaller barns opportunities to win, it would help out.
Ryan, what led you to get involved with training racehorses? Where did that come from?
My great-grandpa and my dad both trained. I rode for a little while. But, that was just been in it my whole life. And started with quarter horses and moved over to the thoroughbreds and just trying to succeed every day with that.
How many horses do you have now?
We have 30 at Santa Anita, and we are breaking 12 babies at a ranch 15 miles from Santa Anita.
Wow, it's a good number. Anything that you can take away from being involved with the quarter horses that helps you when you're working with the thoroughbreds now?
Well, I used to think that the thoroughbred people overtrain their horses and just train them so hard. But since being into the game, it sure seems like you have to really believe in yourself. You have to believe in the horse, and you have to continue to train. And if the horse is showing you that maybe it doesn't want to train, instead of training, it needs a little break. So just really listen to the horse and be really well in tuned into what the horse is telling you.
Well, Ryan, I had a chance to talk with Florent Geroux in the previous segment, and Florent reaching the 2,000 win milestone on Tuesday. Your first career milestone, if you will, is fast approaching. You're sitting at 97 wins in your career. You're going to eventually reach that 100 win mark. Let's hope you can add a couple more to it and get a couple closer later today with those two horses. How cool would that be?
That would be great.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll take one out of two, but let's go win two, as the saying goes.
That sounds great. Thank you.
All right, Ryan, appreciate it. Ryan Hansen here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. One more bid in the Pegasus World Cup turf, and then he turns his attention westward to Santa Anita tomorrow as he gets ready to saddle Manchild against the Bob Baffert Quartet in the San Vicente. Tall assignment on both coasts. But, look, that's why they run the race, right? Nobody saw Archon coming, did they? Maybe they won't see Manchild. Maybe they won't see one more bid until they hit the finish line. Who knows? But that point he brings up about the situation facing California racing, I mean, you look at that race being just 5 horses, the San Vicente. It's a grade 2. Just 5 horses going to be run as the second race on the program. You know, it's an issue. It's a major issue. And we talked about it a few weeks ago during I Ask, They Answer. Are we looking at a situation where more and more trainers, more and more owners are going to start moving their horses from the West Coast to the East because of the greater opportunities? Now, yeah, okay, so he only has to run against 4 other horses in this race. So he catches a smaller field, but he catches 4 really top-notch horses from the Bob Baffert barn. So the chances that Manchild is going to get a sniff in that race tomorrow are slim to none. Whereas if he could have taken his time with this horse after breaking his maiden, gone into a non-winners of 1, then non-winners of 2, and he could have just gone up the ladder, let Manchild get some experience at a level that suits him better. He doesn't have to face the monsters he's going to face tomorrow. Let him develop. And this is just one example. And who knows what Manchild would develop into. He may still be the same horse. But he's been competitive enough against some of the top horses on the West Coast to think, okay, the horse has ability. If he could take his time, work him through his conditions. But as you heard him say, that's really not an option with California racing right now. Something that the sport desperately needs to look at, and we may dive into that topic with Dale and Tim later today if we get time, but that's a full segment too, 10:30 Eastern. Going to talk with them about a variety of different topics, including which trainer and which jockey in the sport today best compares to the 4 quarterbacks remaining in the NFL playoffs. That should be interesting. I want to hear their take on that question. That comes up at 10:30. But when I return, I will welcome Frank Stronach, the man behind Adena Springs and the former president of the Stronach Group. We'll talk about his breeding operation, and we'll talk about the inception of the Pegasus World Cup. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Sam Houston's live thoroughbred meet runs through April 8th and features a new afternoon racing schedule for 2023 with racing Friday through Sunday and a first post at 1 p.m. Central. The meet is highlighted by the Houston Racing Festival on Saturday, January 28th, Texas Preview Day on February 18th, and Texas Champions Day March 25th. Canadian racing fans are invited to play Sam Houston at simulcast outlets throughout Canada and on HPI Bet. For more information, visit shrp.com.
I'm here with Joe Brown Nicholson of Nicholson Insurance Agency. Joe, how do you value a horse for insurance?
Well, Mike, it's easy to value a horse when purchased out of a public auction. The insured value would simply be the auction price. But insuring homebreds can be a little more involved.
How so?
Well, factors such as a stud fee, conformation, pedigree, sales and race records of siblings, even popularity of the stallion all come into play.
How closely do you work with owners in determining a horse's value?
Well, the owner has a pretty good idea of the horse's value, so generally it's just a matter of agreeing to the request and having the policy issued.
For all your equine and general insurance needs, including farm owners, liability, homeowners, auto, and more, contact Joe Brown Nicholson at nicholsoninsurance.com or call 859-224-7080. That's 859-224-7080. Nicholson Insurance Agency.
There's plenty to bet on at Gulfstream Park this January with the return of the championship meet, featuring live thoroughbred racing Wednesday through Sunday and the $3 million Pegasus World Cup on Saturday, January 28th. Enjoy the races outdoors from the Carousel Club or cool off in a private suite or a restaurant 10 Paws. For stake schedules, reservations, and tickets, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Life is Good is still well clear. Life is Good hasn't seen a rival. He's at the quarter pole and he's in front by many. Nick's Go just has too much to do at this point as they straighten for the drive. 3/16 to go. Life is Good is still well clear. Second is Nick's Go toward the inside Stiletto Boy. Back to fourth and endorsed. Less than an eighth of a mile from home. Life is Good is looking good. Life is Good and Irad Ortiz Jr. They ran him off their feet in the Pegasus. Life is Good on cloud 9. He won by 3 over Nick's Go in second. Third was Stiletto Boy, tight for fourth. Either Sir Winston or endorsed in 1:48 and 4.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, with you as always on this Saturday morning. Pete Aiello with the call of last year's Pegasus World Cup, won by now WinStar stallion Life is Good. And boy, was he ever good that afternoon. Well, Frank Stronach has worn plenty of hats during his time in racing. He has been praised, he has been vilified, and he has certainly been questioned. But with every move that he has made, his focus has always been on keeping the interests of horsemen and the sport in the forefront, both on the racing and the breeding side of the business. And Frank is kind enough to spend a little time with me here this morning. He is with me now on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Frank, good morning. Appreciate the conversation, my friend.
Good morning. Nice to be with you.
Very nice to have you with me. And, you know, Frank, I know I've told you this story before, but I don't think I can tell it enough. I want to start by saying thank you for all the support that you and the team at Adena Springs have provided to me and to our network over the nearly 20 years we've been doing this. On Thursday, we were honored with a third Eclipse Award. 4 years ago, we were honored with a Sovereign Award for our coverage of the Queen's Plate at Woodbine. And there have been countless individuals and companies who have played a major role in the success and the longevity of our network. But Frank Stronach and Adena Springs have been a major catalyst, because I remember Frank wanting to broadcast the 2006 Don Handicap before anybody knew who the Horse Racing Radio Network was. And the folks at Gulfstream were saying, okay, We don't know who you are. We don't know what you want to do. I went to you at the Keeneland sale, and I said, Frank, here's what we're trying to create. And you looked at me and you said, that's good for racing. You can go do it. And, Frank, all these years later, and all the success we've had, a lot of it has to do with kicking off with you in Gulfstream Park. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You've done a great job.
Well, I appreciate that. And I remember Jack Brothers being involved at Adina, and now Dermot Carty, who is the director of sales. You know, Frank, let's start with the breeding side of things, because you purchased Adina Springs in Paris in 2005. You opened in 2007. And some of the iconic names in our sport were housed there at Adina Springs. It was what your business was built upon. Awesome Again, Ghost Sapper. What was the driving force for you at that time with starting Adina Springs?
Well, the driving force was I had a business full with technology, and I kind of built automobiles or systems or components. So I just wanted to have something which is connected with nature. So I looked one time in the newspapers, horses for sale. I wanted to have a riding horse, and I went to the first farmer, bought the first horse. And that was a Saturday morning, and in the afternoon I was already jumping. But that farmer had a few race horses. He took me to the racetrack the first time at the racetrack, and I found it fascinating. I bought a farm then, and I bought some brood mares and some yearlings, and So I just found it interesting, and I found it great.
What was it? You said you found it interesting when you went to the racetrack. What was it that first attracted you to the sport?
Well, I like cowboy movies, right? So cowboys always had some horses, but at the later stage I was exposed to racing, and I found it very interesting, and most of all, horses closely connected with nature, and I just found it fascinating, and I started to buy some mares and the yearlings, and I was very lucky the first few years. I had some champions, and I started buying racetracks.
How did you come across horses like Awesome Again and Ghost Sapper? Frank, those are legendary names in our sport.
Well, it's... I always said it doesn't matter how smart you are. I mean, there's a little bit of luck involved, right? And I was lucky. I tried to do if you try to do the right thing over and over, then you have more luck, right? So, but I think you still need a little luck. And so I've been lucky, and I found it exciting, and when I went to the racetracks, I kind of thought they were run kind of not the best way. When you go to the director's room, the food is great, everything is great, but when you go back where the grandstand is, the food is lousy. So I remember first time I went to Santa Anita, right? I had a horse there to run in a stake race, and when I wasn't there, I couldn't get in, because I didn't wear a tie. So anyway, they found a tie. They got it. So I just said to myself, "Look, I'm gonna buy the place and change the rules."
Well, and you've done it, and you've done it very, very successfully, Frank. One more comment, because I told Dermot, I said, Dermot, we need to, when Frank joins me, we have to spend a couple of minutes just talking about the roster that you've assembled north of the border at Adina Springs North with American Guru and Point of Entry and Shaman Ghost and Silent Name. Those horses are iconic stallions in Canada now. So talk about making the move from the Kentucky circuit and the Kentucky breeding business up to Canada.
Well, I still have horses. I still have a farm in Kentucky, and I still have stallions there. But there are some great breeding programs. If you have Canadian breds, and Well, I live here, and my family lives here, and so I've done my part to keep horse racing interesting here in Canada. But I still have a farm in Kentucky, and Kentucky, when it comes to racing, is a very important place, a very important state, and will be so in the future.
I mentioned in my opening comments, Frank, that your vision and some of the things that you have created haven't always been popular at first. But once folks have gotten a chance to see where you were going with certain things, I think most people have said, you know what? He is looking out for the sport. He has the best interest of the sport at heart. What's always been your philosophy and your approach to the business?
Well, when I got into it, you anytime you go in a new business, it's a learning curve. And I asked myself, how come horse racing doesn't do so well? I came to the conclusion, anytime when the public thinks there's some cheating going on, that won't do well, right? So anyway, I think I made a contribution. I knew some congressmen, right? And I tried to push the bill, the horse racing integrity bill, right? And it's more and more difficult now to cheat. So I think horse racing should do better. But my main aim is, and it took me quite a while to understand, horse racing is more than a business. It's not really, it's a culture. Deeply embedded in the United States. Directly, there's about 1 million people involved. And indirect, 5 million. So it's a very important economic part of the United States. Horses, what would the West be? Horses played a great role, and kids, especially girls, love horses. But when you get a certain age, I did some estate planning, and my daughter runs the thing or kind of owns it. But I'm very happy about it. I think she starts to like horse racing, and I try to tell her, I plead with her, look, horse racing should be run by the stakeholders. The stakeholders are the breeders, the horse owners, the trainers, the jockeys. So I think we should lease. I keep pleading we should lease the racetracks to the stakeholders, because they have a huge stake in it, right? And all the people involved, I think it would be great. A state shouldn't run, but once when government start running things, they're screw-ups, right? Political appointees, et cetera. So let the stakeholders run it. So I hope she will follow my advice. But anyway, I'm very pleased that I think she starts to like horses now and horse racing. And I have a granddaughter. She really loves horses, right? And she's one of the best jumpers in I think she's maybe number one in Canada. So anyway, I hope that will take place, and that would secure the future of horse racing if the stakeholders would run the place.
Yeah, and certainly your legacy as well, and would carry on. And I think that's fantastic, Frank. And I've said that for a long time. And even with the new HISA legislation that's been introduced, you mentioned having the government involved is typically not the way to go. I would agree. But at this point, I think more horsemen are saying, hey, we have to come together. This is our sport, right? We have to, as an industry, come together and work together no matter what the circumstances are that we're facing.
Very important to the horsemen get together and lay down some basic principles, what would be good for the sport, and to maintain the culture. The culture is very important to the economy in the United States. And as you know, I built the Pegasus horse. Dedication, that's built to the dedication. Horses played a great role in the civilization of mankind. So, and the Pegasus race was... People want to see something exciting, big races, but there's a big void from the Breeders' Cup to do the Kentucky Derby, etc. So I just thought, gee, to have a race in late January. If horse owners have a great horse, the horse could still become a stallion in that year, and so I think to break up, keep horse racing exciting throughout the year.
And Frank, not to interrupt you, I have to get to a break here in just a minute, but you're right. I mean, and that speaks to the vision that I talked about earlier. And I was there in 2016 at the Thoroughbred Owner Conference at Gulfstream when you announced the concept of the Pegasus World Cup. And, it's, again, we've got to wrap it up. We'll do this again later. We'll have another conversation about this, but it has been such a delight to talk with you. And again, thank you for all of your support of what we've done here over the years. Thank you so much.
Okay. Call me anytime I could make a contribution to horse racing. My heart's still in there, huh?
Yeah, Frank Stronach here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. And that story I told with going up to him, I'll never forget. I still remember standing there exactly where I was when I approached him and said, hey, we're trying to start this network, this racing network. And he looked at me. He said, that's good for racing. You tell Gulfstream, I said, you can come down. And that's how it all got rolling. It had gotten started before that, going back to Arlington Park and the Arlington Million. But that was early on in the development of Horse Racing Radio Network. And Adena Springs, they've been there from the start, and they are still with us today. And my thanks to them. And visit adenastallions.com to learn more about all of their horses. When I come back, I'll take a look at a couple of historical dates in racing history, assuming we have some time, and I'll get you ready for hour number 3. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
The National HBPA's annual conference is fast approaching, March 6th through the 10th at the Hotel Monteleone in New Orleans' historic French Quarter. Don't miss your chance to attend informative panels hosted by industry experts and a keynote address from Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry. The conference kicks off with a reception on Monday, March 6th and offers 3 days of panel discussions, presentations, and meetings along with Jeff Landry's keynote speech on Tuesday, March 7th. Attendees will also enjoy an outing at the fairgrounds for racing on Thursday, March 9th. For more information and registration, visit nationalhbpa.com/convention.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. We leave no warrior behind. Wounded Warrior Project is a non-profit organization created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war. Whether those scars are physical or mental, we're here to make sure that they heal. And whether it's helping those with post-traumatic stress disorder live a normal life again, or giving much-needed support to injured warriors in veterans' hospitals, because no one deserves our help more than the men and women who risk their lives to keep us safe. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
My battle buddies and I attended the NHL Stadium Series at Yankee Stadium. We had never been there before, and 2 of us had never seen a hockey game. Man, we had the time of our lives. It was great therapy. Vet Tix, we can't thank you enough.
Every empty seat at a concert, a game, motorsports, or a play is a missed opportunity to say thanks to a veteran and service member. We can help. We can give our veterans a special event where they too can create their own cherished memories. Find out how by visiting www.vettix.org. That's www.vettix.org. Find out how you can make a difference in a veteran's life.
Want to get the latest HRRN content directly on your computer or mobile device? Then subscribe to our podcast using the Podbean app or Apple Podcasts. Just go to hrrn.podbean.com on your computer and click follow, or download the Podbean app and search HRRN. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and listen to our latest episodes anytime. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our podcasts today. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Happy anniversary to the Claiming Crown. It was 24 years ago today that the Thoroughbred Owners and Breeders Association and the National HPPA announced the creation of the Claiming Crown, which was a 6-race event and held at Canterbury Park. Tomorrow, the anniversary of future Kentucky Derby and Preakness winner Kerry Back, finishing 10th in his first start ever, which was a 3-furlong race for 2-year-old maiden runners at Hialeah. Of course, he would go on to that brilliant career, even after defeat in his first start. Those are a couple historical dates in racing as they apply to this particular weekend. Update on the poll question. So many of you chiming in at HRRN, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook too. Which long shot has the best chance to upset today's Pegasus World Cup at Gulfstream? White Abarrio still the leader in the clubhouse. 51% of you saying White Abarrio. But don't look now. Art Collector making a run. 27% of the vote coming in for Art Collector. You can keep those coming throughout the remainder of the show here this morning. Well, 2 hours down, 1 to go. When I come back, I'll kick off Hour 3 the way we always do with this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. Joe Kristufek going to join me to share his thoughts on a few races you can keep an eye on later today, including the Southwest at Oaklawn. 10:20, Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly stroll through racing history. And at 10:30, I will welcome Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin, for the always popular edition of I Ask, They Answer. If your local station is leaving us at this time, you can continue listening to the third hour of the program nationwide on Sirius 216 XM 204 in the Louisville, Kentucky market on ESPN 680 or streaming at horseracingradio.net. Hour 3 of the Equine Forum is coming up next, right after 10 seconds for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
From the rail to your radio, this is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
It's Arrogate in front, leading by 3 with 1/8 of a mile to go. Shaman Ghost is trying to get into second. Then Neolithic. Back fourth is Noble Bird, followed by Keen Ice. But what a race! What a sport! What a horse! Arrogate romps in the Pegasus. Tabor in the center of the track with good-looking stride squares off with Cyberknife. Cyberknife takes the lead. Tabor going with him. These two in a thriller. Cyberknife just in front. And Cyberknife has won the TVG.com Haskell.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
On the outside, Decorated Invader up the challenge for the lead. Colonel Liam is being outkicked, at least right now. Street ready down the center. Far outside, Good Governance up the fence. City Man, final 1/8 of a mile. Here's City Man. Rosario, so patient, finds a seam and now takes the lead. 16th to go, and City Man has the Fort Lauderdale all locked up.
The leader is Smarty Jones. 2 down, automatic second. Pro Prado to the outside. They drive for the wire. Smarty Jones leads it. Here's 2 down, automatic. Pro Prado. Smarty Jones continues undefeated, wins the Southwest by 3/4.
Now, here's Mike Penna.
Doesn't get much bigger than this weekend in mid-January. Well, late January now. Huge weekend of racing on tap. Mike Penna, bearing in the backstretch, back with you for hour number 3 of the Equine Forum, which begins every week with the TwinSpires Triple Play. And in just a moment, I will welcome Joe Kristufek to the show to give you 3 races you'll want to keep an eye on later today. Kurt Becker's Stroll Through Racing History comes up at 10:20, and at 10:30, I Ask, They Answer with Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin. We'll debate some of the hottest topics in the sport today, including which jockey and which trainer compares best to the 4 quarterbacks remaining in the NFL playoffs. That should be a fun segment. I'll ask those questions to them coming up in just a little bit. But without further ado, it is time for this week's edition of the TwinSpires Triple Play. And Joe Kristufek is indeed with me again this morning. Appreciate the time, Joe, and looking forward to these 3 selections. Thanks for being here, brother.
Yeah, it's good to be here. We get to take a little bit of a deep breath at Fairgrounds after a huge Saturday last weekend. A lot of national stuff obviously going on. We've got a good card Saturday ourselves, but not quite in the spotlight like we were last Saturday.
What did you make of Instant Coffee's performance last weekend?
I thought it was good. I thought it was better than I expected it to be off of the Kentucky Jockey Club win when he kind of grinded it out. He is what he is, and what he is a deep closer who appreciates a long stretch. I don't think that the distances are going to be an issue for him at all moving forward. The question is, how much more upside does he have moving forward, and how good is the crop going to become the first Saturday in May? I mean, I think he's a legitimate Kentucky Derby contender moving forward, but I would guess that there would be several more that'll leapfrog him as far as my list moving forward will go. But the Risen Star should be a great race, and the Louisiana Derby even that much more so, as the road to the Kentucky Derby definitely goes through New Orleans.
Well, as I mentioned, you selected 3 races that bettors can play at TwinSpires.com later today. We're going to start with a 3-year-old Derby prep race that is being held in Arkansas at Oaklawn Park. It's race 10. It is the Southwest, and looks like a pretty competitive group. Some promising youngsters going to the post in here. How'd you see that one, my friend?
Yeah, most of the time I'm going to gravitate towards the races that I'm covering locally, which will be Fairgrounds, and we'll have a couple of races from Fairgrounds here in a moment. But I also got my eye on the road to the Triple Crown, road to the Derby, et cetera, Southwest, obviously a points race towards the Run for the Roses. And there's a lot of high-profile horses in here, with Arabian Night obviously being at the forefront. Brad Cox has got a trio in here, Corona Bolt trying 2 turns for the first time, Jace's Road, who's already proven around 2 turns, a winner of the Gun Runner here, and then Hit Show looks to have a bright future as well. But I went to Sun Thunder at 10-1 as the horse for the triple play. Was impressed with his third-place performance on debut at Churchill on the Stars of Tomorrow card, November 26th. He broke slowly. He was in the clear. I like the way that he split foes and finished that day to be third behind Determinedly, who did win an undercard allowance race here on the Lecomte card, and Shopper's Revenge, another very nice prospect for Steve Asmussen, who did win at Oaklawn recently. And I really like the way Sun Thunder galloped out, going 7 furlongs. He comes back and wins for fun in the short-stretch mile race at Oaklawn and a subsequent start. He's got the pedigree to be a good horse by Into Mischief, and he's flying under the radar at 10-1. So we're going to make Sun Thunder our first of our 3 triple play horses.
Yeah, it would be a big price there, 10-1 for Joe Kristufek in the Southwest Stakes at Oaklawn. Post time 5:57 Eastern for that race. We typically like to go in order of those post times, chronological order when we do the triple play, but we're going to bounce around a little bit today because now we go back in time and go to the Fairgrounds. Race number 5 is the second race you selected. That post is 4:35 Eastern, so it will be run prior to the Southwest. And that's a claiming race with a good-sized field and a pretty competitive group. And you're going to maybe not go with a big bomb in here, but you got your eye on a bit of an upset.
Yeah, I've already given you my big price for the 3 for the day. We'll see how that one goes at Oaklawn. But I got a couple of horses I like that should be, and you mentioned them, Mike, square prices. I mean, this horse is 4-1 in the morning line, and there are some other horses that people are going to gravitate to, and Soul Coaxing, one for fun here on December 29th. Similar class level, but this is a much tougher field than he faced that day. But he was in the pocket, which is a trip that he might get in this one as well. He rolled by his competition without even really trying and was just shown the whip late. He had more to give that particular day. Marcelino Pedroza, who rode last time, recently injured here in a gate mishap at Fairgrounds. We wish him the best. So you get Emmanuel Nieves, a very capable rider aboard for trainer Hugh Robertson. And like I said, there are a couple of others that people will gravitate to. Blue Jays being one of those. First Glimpse, Summer Splash, who's got maybe the controlling speed in his favor. But I think Soul Coaxing is going to get a similar pocket trip in this one. And if we can get 3-1, 7-2 on him, I'd be more than happy.
All right, Soul Coaxing in the 5th race at the Fairgrounds. And then the 8th race, which will be run after the Southwest Stakes, that goes at 6:45 Eastern. The 8th race at the Fairgrounds, you're going to, again, take another very solid price in here, Joe.
Yeah, and I hope the rail's good because I took the one horse in Soul Coaxing and then the one neutralized in this one. So we'll hope for the best. Not that these horses necessarily, need a golden rail to be successful, but might get similar pocket trips here, this time with a sprinter in Neutralize, who did win first time out and did win against the bias at Churchill. That was a racetrack that favored off the pace and wide runners. This horse got a perfect spying trip up close to an even pace, and I thought really battled gamely to the wire. Did not have a comfortable trip in the Letelier and the follow-up start. Kind of was in tight between rivals. Ran into a beast that day for Brad Cox and Dazzling Blue and did not run up to her capabilities. Comes back in this easier spot off of a trio of useful workouts for Al Stahl and is 5-1 in a race where, once again, there are several different ways you can go. So Neutralized, for me, I think she'll bounce back with a really good performance. And, again, if we can get 7-2 or 4-1 on her, I'd be more than happy.
All right, Neutralize in race number 8 at the Fairgrounds. Again, 5-1 on the morning line for Joe Kristufek in that triple play. Head over to TwinSpires.com. You're not going to see a specific triple play wager, but it doesn't matter. You can bet all 3 of those races he just walked through any way you like, but just make sure you're doing it at TwinSpires.com. Just to recap, in the 10th race at Oaklawn, the Southwest Stakes, Joe will go with Sun Thunder, who is 10-1 on the morning line. Race 5 at the Fairgrounds, Soul Coaxing at 4-1, and race 8 at Fairgrounds, Neutralize at 5-1 on the morning line. Joe, any thoughts on what we saw at the Eclipse Awards last night before I let you go?
No, I honestly think I had them all. I think all the horses I voted for to win did. I'm not saying that really means much of anything, but you like to see the horses that you vote for win. And I did not vote in the steeplechase category. I will stand by my stance that I am not informed, and I believe when you're not informed, you shouldn't vote. So I'll stand on that soapbox and basically admit that I didn't vote in that category because I really didn't know what I was looking at, and I think you should be informed if you're going to vote in any category, no matter what it is. So those would be my thoughts. And, Mike, one more thing real quick. It's championship weekend. We both know that. I think both of our respective football teams have upside going into this offseason. Cheers to a Steelers-Bears Super Bowl in the next 3 years. Can you get on board with that?
I couldn't have said it better myself, Joe.
All right. Cheers to a Bears-Steelers Super Bowl in the next 3 years, and may the best team win.
Yeah, I wonder what kind of odds we could get on that Super Bowl matchup in Vegas right now. I'm sure they'd be pretty big, but would certainly be fun to see. One more thing real quick, Joe. What's happening at TwinSpires.com this weekend?
Well, we've got lots of great promotional offers each and every racing day at TwinSpires. The promotional offer for Fairgrounds that I'm aware of is the $1,000 late pick 5, hit it and split it. We've got the 15% takeout on the pick 5s and the $1 pick 6 wager here at Fairgrounds. So that's something that you should try to take advantage of. Those promotional offers are great at TwinSpires, not only, locally, at tracks like Fairgrounds and Churchill, but then the leaderboard competition as well. With the Southwest Stakes today, you earn points along with the horses on the road to the Kentucky Derby. I think the leader's got 51 points right now, so it's not too late to get involved. Or if you are involved already, make sure you keep playing those $25 win bets and earn points with the horses, and we'll see how it goes in the Southwest today, but certainly a great prep on the road to the first Saturday in May.
All right, Joe Kristufek with this week's TwinSpires triple play. Again, head over to TwinSpires.com to make those bets. Joe, appreciate it, my friend. Enjoy the weekend, and good luck.
Yeah, it should be a great weekend in sports and in horse racing, and you enjoy it as well, my friend.
All right, Joe Kristufek here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Head over there and bet those races, again, any way that you like. Interesting pick in the Southwest Stakes, going with Sun Thunder. Certainly a horse that is not necessarily on a lot of people's radars at this point anyway, but a win in the Southwest certainly would put him there. And you heard Joe talk about Instant Coffee and his win at the Fairgrounds last week, and he said it was good. It was better than what he was expecting it to be, but maybe some more room left for improvement there. He's going to have to improve more in the eyes of Joe Kristufek if he's going to continue to move forward as we get closer to the first Saturday in May. We'll see if that happens. But back to Sun Thunder for a minute, a horse that comes out of that impressive maiden win at Oaklawn on December 31st. Certainly has the pedigree that says, hey, the further they go, the better, being by Into Mischief out of a Medaglia d'Oro mare. So going from a mile to a mile in the 16th, the extra distance won't affect this horse, and the way he runs, sits off the pace, and finishes certainly appears to be a good way to go in this spot. We'll see. Ken McPeak looking to get back to Louisville again with another contender. That would be a great story, too. The Grade 3 Southwest coming up at 5:57 Eastern at Oaklawn later today. All right, when I come back, it is time for Kurt Becker's Stroll Through Racing History. You won't want to miss that story. And then Dale and Tim will be here at 10:30 Eastern for this week's I Ask, They Answer. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Sam Houston's live thoroughbred meet runs through April 8th and features a new afternoon racing schedule for 2023, with racing Friday through Sunday and a first post at 1 p.m. Central. The meet is highlighted by the Houston Racing Festival on Saturday, January 28th, Texas Preview Day on February 18th, and Texas Champions Day March 25th. Canadian racing fans are invited to play Sam Houston at simulcast outlets throughout Canada and on HPI Bet. For more information, visit shrp.com.
Curling, the classic sire.
They're off in the Derby City this day. And obligatory.
And it's got to be Clariere in the Tip Stakes. Nest, much the best. She won by better than 10 lengths in this coaching club. American Oaks, Cody's Wish with the upset in the Fargo. And Marathon has won the Personal Ensign Stakes.
Curling, standing at Hill and Dale.
There's something for everyone this February at Laurel Park. Come watch live horse racing every Friday through Sunday and join us on Saturday, February 18th for the Winter Spectacular Stakes, featuring 6 stakes races and $900,000 in purses, including the Grade 3 General George and the Grade 3 Barbara Fritchie Stakes. Plus, don't miss out on special President's Day holiday racing on Monday, February 20th. Visit laurelpark.com for more info. That's laurelpark.com for more.
It's time now to shine the spotlight on the Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week.
For the final quarter mile, West Willpower set down for the drive. Proxy comes wide off the turn. These two head-to-head. Last Samurai third, Folsom fourth and closing. Racing for the 8th pole. West Willpower bracing for Proxy. West Willpower digs in. Proxy surges. Nothing between them with a 16th to go. Proxy on the outside. West Willpower fights on, but Proxy got it!
That's future Darley stallion Proxy winning in his first Grade 1 start last fall, the Clark at Churchill Downs. The son of Tappet, out of multiple Grade 1 winner Panty Raid, makes his second attempt at the highest level in today's Pegasus World Cup at Gulfstream. And he is your Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week. Learn more about all the Darley stallions by visiting darleyamerica.com.
Hello, I'm Kurt Becker. Thanks for joining me as I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. She was a Canadian-bred filly which loved to drink coffee and which her groom nicknamed after a candy bar because she had such a sweet personality. And she was the Eclipse champion 2-year-old filly of 1972. Her name was La Prévoyante. A homebred for Montreal financier Jean-Louis Levesque, La Prévoyante was named after an insurance company which Levesque owned. Translated, the name meant Lady of Foresight. Foaled on April 22, 1970 in Ontario, La Prévoyante was from the second crop sired by U.S. Horse of the Year Buckpasser. Her dam was a full sister to Canadian Horse of the Year Northern Dancer. A well-proportioned bay filly of medium size, La Prévoyante was sent to John Starr for training. Groom Leo Davidson was holding a cup of coffee one day, and as the filly nuzzled him, she dumped the coffee on his jacket. She immediately began lapping it up. Davidson said she began drinking coffee on a regular basis soon thereafter, but only so long as the coffee came with cream and sugar. It was also Davidson who gave La Prévoyante her nickname of Tootsie Roll, because, as he put it, she had such a sweet personality. She was so well behaved, he said, that you could invite her into your living room. Davidson added that La Prévoyante was a big ham that loved to be petted and also would pose for cameras. Trainer Star began the filly's racing career in the spring of 1972 in Canada, where she won 3 stakes by a combined 16 lengths and defeated males in the Collins Stakes. Her U.S. debut would come in the Schuylerville at Saratoga, which she won as the 2-1 favorite under jockey John LeBlanc, running her record to 6 wins in 6 starts. 3 weeks later, La Prévoyante returned to Saratoga to win the 81st running of the Spinaway, this time as the 2-5 favorite. In September at Belmont Park, before a crowd of 33,000, she went to the post as the 1-5 favorite and cruised home by 7 lengths to win the Matron Stakes. One by one, La Prévoyante was picking off the most prominent races for 2-year-old fillies on the eastern seaboard, and the streak would continue as she was about to add another stakes win at Belmont Park. The date was October 7th, and the race was the Frisette. 3 inches of rain fell that day at Belmont, with fog settling around the track by post time. And on a sloppy track as the 3-10 favorite, La Prévoyante ran her record to a perfect 10 for 10, including an 8th consecutive stakes win. It was also becoming clear that La Prévoyante was a versatile filly. She had won on dirt and turf, and she had won on tracks listed fast, good, slow, and sloppy. Next, it was a trip to Laurel Racecourse and the $100,000 Salima Stakes, dispatched as the 1-10 favorite, this time with Ron Turcotte aboard, and once again racing on a sloppy track, La Prévoyante drew clear and won by a 14-length margin. After the race, Turcotte told the press that riding the filly was like racing a Cadillac against a bunch of Volkswagens. In her final start of the year, La Prévoyante won the Gardenia Stakes at Garden State Park by 18 lengths at odds of 1-5. She ended the 1972 campaign with a perfect 12 wins in 12 starts and an Eclipse Award as America's outstanding 2-year-old filly. She was also named Canadian Horse of the Year. La Prévoyante would continue racing in 1973, winning a pair of minor stakes, and her career would continue through the end of her 4-year-old season. Regrettably, she died of a ruptured lung following the running of the Miss Florida Stakes at Calder Racecourse on December 29, 1974 in Florida. Calder would create a race in memory of the standout filly, with the La Prévoyante Stakes later being moved to Gulfstream Park. Sports columnist Jim Coleman, writing in the Vancouver Sun, said that death came swiftly and unexpectedly for La Prévoyante. He added, she'll be remembered in the record books as follows. La Prévoyante, bay filly by Buck Passer out of Arctic Dancer, 39 starts, 25 wins, 5 seconds and 3/3, $572,417. Coleman noted that La Prévoyante was the richest Canadian-bred filly or mare in history. But then he added, quote, that record will soon be erased in this day of inflated purses. And the tragedy is that La Prévoyante was robbed of the opportunity to leave a lasting mark on the Canadian turf as a broodmare. She left nothing to posterity, and it's a crying shame, end quote. Please join me again next week when I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. For HRRN, I'm Kurt Becker.
And once again, my thanks to Kurt and to Keeneland for making those segments possible each and every week. If you have missed any of Kurt's Stroll Through Racing History segments, all you have to do is head back over to our website, horseracingradio.net. You can check out the special podcast page dedicated to those stories and listen to every single one. There have been some amazing ones. Go back and listen at horseracingradio.net. When I come back, Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin, they will be here. It is this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Woodford Feed, where tradition merges with technology. Family owned since 1940 and providing exceptional customer service, Woodford Feed specializes in the highest quality feed, using only the finest ingredients to ensure optimal nutrition for your horses. In addition, Woodford Feed can help with all your farm needs, including field seed, fertilizer, and weed control. So whether your horse is sprinting around the racetrack or has a foal by her side, count on Woodford Feed to provide the quality nutrition necessary to perform at the highest level. Woodford Feed, Versailles, Kentucky.
When it's time to paint the fences and barns, think Farm Paint. At Farm Paint, you get the industry's best coatings and paints factory direct at low, low prices. Farm Paint is your source for quality paints, roof coatings, dustless arena footings, and more. You can purchase online or drop into a Farm Paint store near you with locations in Heart of Bluegrass Country at 700 Phillips Lane in Lexington, Kentucky, Columbus, Ohio, and Sandusky, Ohio. Buy factory direct and save at farmpaint.com. That's farmpaint.com.
New to Coolmore America for 2023 is Jack Kristufek, a son of top sire Munnings and a 3-time Grade 1 winner. Jack Kristufek was an 8 3/4 length winner on debut at Saratoga at 2 before winning the Grade 1 Champagne with a whopping 102 Beyer. His 3-year-old campaign included wins in the Grade 2 Pat Day Mile, the Grade 1 Woody Stevens by 10 lengths, and the Grade 1 H. Allen Jerkins. Jack Kristufek stands at an introductory fee of $45,000. Call the team at Ashford today to book your mare before he fills up.
DeMarchelier offers breeders a rare opportunity as the only son of Dubawi standing in Kentucky. Dubawi, one of the world's most celebrated stallions, is now a sire of sires. His top sons at stud are making a name for themselves across the globe. With a picture-perfect pedigree, this son of Dubawi brings one of the world's most potent bloodlines to America. DeMarchelier, standing at Claiborne Farm.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
3/4, 110 and 1, and they're at the top of the stretch. Gunrunner set down for the drive by Florent Geroux. He leads by 2. West Coast, the only one with a chance. He's second. Well clear of the others. A battle on for third with Fear the Cowboy coming on. Gunrunner needs another 16th. It's Gunrunner in front. He'll go out a winner. He's the horse of the year, and he's Gunrunner with an unforgettable performance in the Pegasus World Cup. He won by 2 over West Coast second. The local horses did well. Ganavera got third. Fear the Cowboy was fourth, and the final time was 1:47.2. Gunrunner.
Pete Aiello with the call. Horse of the Year, Gunrunner, taking home the top prize in the 2018 renewal of the Pegasus World Cup. But which previous winner should be considered the greatest World Cup winner? Plus, would all 6 of those previous winners be favored in today's renewal? We'll find out. And with the NFL down to their Final Four this weekend, which jockey and which trainer best compares to the 4 quarterbacks on those remaining teams? We're going to talk about those topics and much, much more coming up on this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer with trainer Dale Romans and turf writer Tim Wilkin, all presented by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program and the College of Business, and all starting just 30 seconds from right now.
Learn the business of horses in the world's only accredited equine business program, the University of Louisville Equine Business Program. The University of Louisville has a legacy of excellence educating and developing industry leaders for over 35 years. Classes are taught by industry experts in state-of-the-art facilities located in the heartland of America's equine industry. The University of Louisville Equine Business Program. When it comes to horses, we mean business. For more information, visit business.louisville.edu/equine.
Guys, today marks the 7th renewal of the Pegasus World Cup. The previous 6 winners are as follows: Arrowgate, Gunrunner, City of Light, Mucho Gusto, Knicks Go, and Life is Good. Which of those horses should be considered to be the greatest Pegasus World Cup winner to date? Timmy, you want it first?
Yeah, to me it's pretty easy. I think it's Arrowgate. I mean, he had that phenomenal streak going with the big 4-race winning streak he had back in the day when he won the Travers, the Classic, Pegasus Dubai World Cup. And, when he won the Pegasus, he won by 4 3/4 lengths, and he ran the fastest time ever for that race, 1:46 and 4. And, I just think he towers above the other horses that were, the Pegasus champions, all good horses in their own right. But for me, I'll take Arrogate all day, every day.
Yeah, it'd be hard to go against Arrogate, for sure. I mean, Gunrunner's a great horse, but they went over to Dubai, and Arrogate spotted him 5 lengths and still ran him down from the break, so you'd have to go with Arrogate.
All right, so Arrogate for Dale and Tim
that first one, Arrogate, that was the heralded showdown between him and California Chrome, and California Chrome was never a factor in that race, and Arrogate just dominated. It was, he proved what a phenomenal horse he was. We only got to see him for a short time, but he was the real deal.
Yes, he was.
Guys, if you put those 6 horses in the starting gate together, is Arrogate the heavy favorite, or does a horse like Gunrunner or Knicks Go or jump up and take some of that money? What do you think?
I'd say Arrogate's a pretty big favorite. He's if everybody was at their very best, he was unbeatable. So I would make him a pretty strong favorite.
Yeah, I would too. I would put him odds-on favorite against this bunch, and that's not taking nothing away from those others. I mean, Life is Good was a darn good horse. Knicks Go and Gunrunner. I mean, it's but from everything that Arrogate did in that short span was, comparable to what any horse has ever done in the 4-race span, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too. Arrogate certainly towers over many of those. Gunrunner, I think, maybe the only one that could really give him a legitimate tussle, if you will, in terms of the wagering and what we would see if those 6 were in the starting gate together. All right, topic number 2. Those 6 Pegasus World Cup winners have been ridden by 5 different jockeys. Irad Ortiz Jr. has won the race twice. All 5 of those jockeys, guys, have mounts in today's renewal. Irad will ride Defunded. Mike Smith, Stiletto Boy. Javier Castellano rides O'Connor. Joel Rosario Proxy. Florent Geroux rides Cyberknife. If I were to give you those 5 jockeys versus the other 7 in the field today, which bet are you going to make? Dale?
I think it's such an an even field of horses. I would take the outside. I'll take the 7 others.
This race, I mean, it's historically, and it's not a big sample because the race has only been going on since 16, but there's never been a big long shot that has won this race. I mean, it's and there's really no big favorite going into this one. It's Cyberknife at 5-2 is the morning line favorite. So I think that you could have a price horse that wins this race because, there is no horse that's going to scare anybody away. You got a full field of 12. It's going to be a great betting race. So I think I'm going to take the 7-2.
Well, let's say that it's one of those 5 jockeys that have won it before that ends up winning it today. Irad, Mike Smith, Javier, Joel, or Florent. Which of those 5 is most likely to add another Pegasus World Cup to their resume?
Well, Florent, I would think, would be the most likely. That horse does look like the deserving favorite, but a lukewarm favorite.
Yeah, and, Cyberknife is going to start from the he's going to have an outside post. If I were going to take one of the 5 to win this, I might take Joel Rosario with Proxy, even though he's got the rail. I mean, Proxy's been a sneaky good horse lately. I mean, he's come on after winning the race at Churchill in his last start in the fall. The way this race is, it looks like there's plenty of speed, and these speed might stay. And I'm not going to toss out White Abarrio. I mean, it's the Florida Derby winner. He's won all 4 of his starts at Gulfstream. He doesn't win anywhere else, but he wins at Gulfstream. So I'm going to keep an eye on him, and if the price is right, I might go in with both pockets on him. So and that'd be Tyler Gaffleone. So yeah, I'm thinking there's going to be a price in this race.
White Abarrio, he would be if I was probably betting, I'd take a little price on him. He's really training good too. He looks good out there.
Yeah, certainly a competitive renewal later today at Gulfstream Park. All right, 2 topics down, a few more to come, and that brings us to our weekly Right or Wrong segment where we get the chance to honor our good friend Nick Zito with a few sound bites here in this segment. And I expanded the segment for this week, guys, because with the Eclipse Awards last night, I thought there were some things to talk about there, and I certainly think there's more Pegasus conversation to be had. So, without further ado, it is time for this week's segment, Right or Wrong.
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right? What do you think? Right or wrong?
Okay, Dale, I'm coming to you first. If I were to say that any of those previous 6 Pegasus World Cup winners we talked about earlier would be favored in today's renewal, would I be right or wrong?
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right?
I stepped all over Nick. Sorry about that. You'd be 100% right. Those 6, I think, would be heavy favorites, any one of them. And they'd probably win the race. But you're right. This is a much different field. It's going to be an interesting race, and it's going to be a good race to watch and bet on because it is an even group, and you could go 3 or 4 deep with horses that have real live chances to win. But if any one of those was in there, they'd all be the favorite, and they'd all probably win.
Well, I'm going to disagree. I'm going to say wrong on that one. I think that 5 of them would be the favorites. I don't think Mucho Gusto would win as the favorite. He was the second choice when he ran and won behind Higher Power in 2020. I mean, yeah, Nick's Go, Life is Good, City of Light, who also wasn't favored, Gun Runner, Arrogate, those ones I think would be all favored. But Mucho Gusto didn't come in with the credentials of a horse that you'd fear in this race. So, yeah, I think Mucho Gusto would not be favored in this race. He'd be a competitor for sure, but I say Mucho Gusto would not be favored.
Well, Cyberknife ran in the Mucho Gusto race. I think Mucho Gusto at the time would have been a shorter price.
I'm not sure about that. I just think Cyberknife, he's coming into this race. I mean, it's going to be the last race of his career, but he was, he was just a lip away from winning the mile in the Breeders' Cup, and he was a pretty competitive 3-year-old. So, I think Cyberknife would be a lower price than Mucho Gusto if they were to be in the same race. That's what I think.
It could be.
All right, number 2. Epicenter was voted champion 3-year-old male over Modern Games and Taba last night. Did voters get that right or wrong?
Yeah, right or wrong. Okay.
Tim?
Well, I'm going to say wrong because I voted for Taba. I was kind of surprised that Epicenter won by a bigger margin as he did. He blew away Taba. With Epicenter had 155 votes to Taba's 66. I get why Epicenter won because, he was probably the most consistent. But I thought that the fact that Taba had the 3 grade 1s would put him over the top. But obviously all the voters didn't agree with me. Epicenter is deserving, but I just thought Taba should have, in my opinion, won it because of his 3 grade 1s.
I think they got it right. I've been preaching Epicenter was a champion for a long time, and it's not this time. It's first of many champions to come.
All right, number 3, Elite Power was voted champion sprinter over Cody's Wish and Jackie's Warrior. Did the voters get that right or wrong?
What do you think? Right or wrong?
Personally, I think they got that one wrong. I thought Cody's Wish would get that. I thought it would have been a great fitting into the story.
I'm going to say wrong, too, and I voted for Cody's Wish, and I know that people are going to say, well, Cody's Wish, yeah, he won the mile, that's not a sprint. But it was the story. It was the story of the year, and, sentimentally, I thought that was the one that he should have won because of the sentimental value, and I also get why, sentimental horses, are not going to win these races all the time with the voters. And, Elite Power from the same barn did win the Breeders' Cup Sprint. So, yeah, I would have wished for Cody's Wish to have won the Sprint Eclipse. but I understand why Elite Power did. I mean, and that one wasn't that close either. I mean, Elite Power had 108 votes, and Cody's Wish was second with 70, and Jackie's Warrior was third with 62. Yeah, I think it was wrong, but I also get why Elite Power won. I mean, he won 5 of 6 races this year. Then the only grade 1 though was the sprint. So I take my lumps on that one too.
How about Regal Glory, who was voted champion female turf horse over In Italian and Warlike Goddess? Did the voters get that one right or wrong?
Yeah, right or wrong. Okay.
Timmy?
I'd say they got that one right. That one right. That's always a tough call, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to say right on that because that's one of the ones I did get right. Regal Glory, she did have such a strong campaign, and she did try the boys twice, and, to her credit. I mean, she was 10th in the Breeders' Cup Mile. She was in the Sword Dancer at Saratoga. And she got 96 votes. In Italian was 51. Both of those horses trained by Chad. More Like Goddess was 47. So, I thought Regal Glory definitely earned her Eclipse Award because, she showed up against her kind all year long.
Yeah, hard to fault the voters for going that direction with Regal Glory. All right, one more topic, right or wrong. Timmy, you sent out a tweet during the Eclipse Awards last night. I'm going to read it because I think it is a great discussion topic here. Mike Rapoli, co-owner of Forte, went over the allotted minute he was given to accept the award. You had him timed at 2 minutes and 37 seconds is what you put in the tweet. And then you went on to say, geez, let these people talk a little bit. Moment of a lifetime. Right or wrong? So, Dale, is Tim right or wrong?
What do you think? Right or wrong?
No, I want to say Tim's right. Let them talk. And I'll give you a little. When I won my Eclipse Award in 2012, walking to the stage, I got a text, and it was from Bob Baffert, who was also nominated that year, congratulating me. And at the end of the text, he says, make them play you off. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, of course, I'm going to say I'm right on this because I wrote the tweet. This is the Oscars for horse racing. This is the moments that a lot of these guys and gals might never get again. And to go up on the stage and to have 1 minute, you're already nervous. You're already maybe half loaded. You're already you're in the moment. You're so excited, and 1 minute goes by awful quick. To not allow them to be in that spotlight and enjoy this moment, I think is just insane. What did the NTRA only rent the room out for an hour? I mean, it just seemed to me that if you're going to celebrate the accomplishments of the sport for the whole year, you should. I'm not talking about going for 5 minutes, but you got to give them 2 to 3 minutes. I mean, is it going to? What are people? What's the big hurry to get out of there? I know that everyone gets up early for training in the morning, but this is still. You're out of the. You could be out of there by 9:30, and you're still going to have plenty of time. So I thought it was just unconscionable to have the suits and the bean counter say you only get a minute. I just thought that was ridiculous.
Timmy, I think you're 100% right, and I agree with you completely on this one. If the Eclipse Awards are being shown on a network television network, yeah, that's kind of redundant, but if it was being shown on NBC or CBS or ABC or one of those networks and you had to stick to a certain time frame and you had time constraints, I get it, but it's not. Online, it's on horse racing, FanDuel TV. There's no reason that people couldn't be given a little bit more time to thank everybody that they need to thank. I completely agree with you on this one, and I think it's a valid point, and I think that was a very good tweet. That is right or wrong for this week. We will continue with that segment next week with some more topics. That was an expanded edition of it for you here this morning. We have one more to get to before we dive into the final point of the week that Dale and Tim will both make
before we wrap up the show. And with the NFL playoffs coming down to their Final Four this weekend, I thought this would be kind of interesting. I'm going to present you with the name of each starting quarterback for those 4 teams, and I want you to tell me which jockey and which trainer compares best to those quarterbacks. And I'll throw the name out. Dale, you can go first. Tim, you'll go second. Then we'll move on to the next name. So let's start with the San Francisco 49ers and Brock Purdy. Dale, which jockey, which trainer compares best to a guy like Brock Purdy?
He's a tough rookie, so I'm going bug boy Jose Gomez. And my good friend up-and-coming Norman Cassidy, the way he's taking the game by storm, and is a young guy too. So I love watching this story for Brock. I think it's one of the greatest stories in sports this year.
I agree with him with Jose Gomez winning the Apprentice Award, but I went a little out of the box for the trainer. I went with Chad Brown, because, Brock Purdy was the last player taken in the draft, and I don't know if a lot of people expected a lot of him. When Chad first came out with his license to go out on his own in 2007, I don't know if people figured what he would be able to do. And, the next year, the next Breeders' Cup, he won a Breeders' Cup race, and he's been on fire ever since. So I'm going to say Chad Brown, who, came out of the box running in his career, reminds me of a Brock Purdy.
Okay, we'll stick with the NFC. Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Hurts. Dale?
I'm going to go Jose Ortiz. He's a little more serious, seems like to me. And trainer-wise, let's make him Chad Brown, because he kind of looks serious to me. And Chad's kind of a serious guy. And Timmy, I'll say Chad's an Ivy League graduate. I didn't have a whole lot of doubt that he couldn't figure this game out. I told him when he first started, we're supposed to train for Ivy League graduates, not against them.
Okay. Well, for Jalen Hurts, who's in his 3rd season, and he's gotten he's gotten better every year, I'm going to make my trainer Brad Cox, because Brad when he first started out, he got better and better and better. And, he's entered horses in 2 Kentucky Derbies. He won one of them, even though it was by unfortunate circumstances. He wants to win it on his own for sure. So I'm going to put him as my Jalen Hurts, and I'm going to put Irad Ortiz as my Jalen Hurts jockey, because, he basically came out of the gates running too. And, he has gotten better and better as the years have gone on. And Jalen Hurts could very well end up be a Super Bowl champion this year. And Irad Ortiz has just become, one of the best jockeys that we've seen. So I'm going Irad Ortiz on this one.
I love those answers. Fantastic. Let's move on to the AFC. Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow. Dale?
Joe Burrow's my favorite player in football. I want to say that he's Kent DeSarmo, because Kent, whatever you say about him, he's got this swag about him. And I think Joe's the coolest guy on the planet right now. And so I'm going to make myself the trainer, because I want to be as cool as Joe Burrow.
No, I was almost going to put Dale Romans and Joe Burrow, but I didn't. I put John Sadler in there, because John is a quiet, confident kind of guy. And, Joe Burrow is not as quiet, but he's also confident. He just goes out and does his job, and he knows what he has and what he can do. And I feel John's the same way. And as for the jockey, I'm going to put Joel Rosario in that spot, because Joel, you don't see a lot of bravado from him. He just goes out and does his job, and it's like he expects to win. I think Joe Burrow's the same way, and Joel expects greatness when he gets on a horse. And I think John Sadler does too. And it helps too that he had Flightline. So for my Joe Burrow, John Sadler and Joel Rosario.
All right, that only leaves us with one. That is the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes.
I'm going to say for my jockey, this is Irad Ortiz. Got a good energy about him. He's always upbeat, always willing to play hurt, and wants to be on every horse. That's my jockey, Irad Ortiz. And if you're going to have a list of trainers of any type, you have to have a Todd Pletcher. So we'll put Todd Pletcher as the trainer.
Yeah, I agreed with you on the trainer with Todd. I mean, Mahomes right now is the best quarterback in the game. He just wins. Who do you want in the big game? You want him. Who do you want in the big race? You want Todd Pletcher, I think. I mean, he's now an 8-time Eclipse Award-winning trainer. You know, the big game comes up. Todd Pletcher's the guy you want putting the saddle on your horse. And as for my jockey, I went with John Velasquez, who has also been a guy that has played hurt. And, you know, he's a guy that when the bell rings, he's there for you. You know, it's when his career is done, I don't think you're going to be able to say there were too many more that did it as good as he did. And I think you'll say the same thing when Mahomes ends his career. So I would say Johnny V and Todd for my Patrick Mahomes selection.
Timmy, you realize you just talked about 4 trainers and you didn't put Bob Baffert in there for one of them?
You know, I knew you were going to say something like that. You know, maybe if they had put Tom Brady in there, I would have put Bob Baffert in there.
There you go.
But Tom,
all right. None of these 4 are good enough, right?
There you go.
Bob's going to take back that autographed picture he gave you, Timmy.
Nah, he understands. Besides, he didn't give me an autographed picture. I gave him one of mine.
You bought his.
Perfect. Yeah, that'll wrap up this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. But before we get to the final bell, we do have one last thing to get to, and that is Dale and Tim making their final point of the week. And Timmy, will go to you first, and then we'll head over to Dale. Timmy, take it away.
Well, I'm just going to say one more time, congratulations to you, Mike, for your Eclipse Award that you got. And well done, well deserved. I'm also going to just also say a well done to Dale Romans, who came out of the box real fast out there at Turfway Park, won a couple races there the other night. His first 13 starts, he's got 6 winners. Keep it up.
Thank you, Timmy. And I want to just congratulate everybody who won last night. It was a great night for everybody. It's something they'll remember the rest of their life. It's a good evening. If anybody's never been, you ought to try to get there. And everybody needs to look at the money Mike Rapoli spent in the last few years. Let him talk as long as he wants.
Yeah, great point right there. That's a fantastic way to wrap up the show. And by the way, Dale, great job with that op-ed you put out there this week. It needed to be said, and I think you said it very well.
Thank you, but it's just time for us to start all getting along and move forward. It's law. It's here. It's not going anywhere.
Yep, great stuff. All right, if you have a question and a topic you want to hear Dale and Tim debate, you know what to do. Just email it to me, Mike@horseracingradio.net, and we'll get it worked in for you. Appreciate it, guys. We're back next week with another brand new edition of I Ask, They Answer, presented by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program and the College of Business. And I'll be back with more. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing
In
Radio
honor
Network.
of all those we've lost to cancer and those still fighting and thriving, like basketball analyst and cancer champion Dick Vitale.
I want to beat cancer. I'm going to beat it. That's no doubt in my mind. I'm going to win this battle.
Defeating cancer will take all of us. Join our team to help fund game-changing research that saves lives. At the V Foundation, V is for victory over cancer. V is for victory over the odds. V is for victory over health disparities, victory over setbacks, victory over the unknown. V is for victory over giving up.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
Donate to the V Foundation to join our team and help save lives.
Cancer can take away all my physical abilities. It cannot touch my mind, it cannot touch my heart, and it cannot touch my soul.
100% of donations fund game-changing cancer research. Donate now to the V Foundation at v.org.
And now an important message from Jerry Rice.
As a career wide receiver, I've been hit hard. But no training nor practice prepared us for the devastation of COVID-19. Thankfully, there is hope. Even with multiple vaccines available, we still have to work together until everyone is safe. We all win when we unite to prevent.
For more information, visit unitetoprevent.org.
People do some pretty cool things in their 40s and 50s. Why should saving for retirement be any different? I mean, they go back to college, learn new instruments, start skateboarding.
Whoa!
Okay, maybe that one's not for everybody, but saving for retirement is. With aceyourretirement.org, you can get on track with your retirement savings no matter your age. Just have a 3-minute chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach from AARP. You'll get personalized recommendations based on your input that are easy to understand and work with your lifestyle. It's quick, easy, and free. Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back.
Gnarly move, Dad.
Thanks, sweetie.
So wherever you are in your retirement savings journey, head to aceyourretirement.org and start chatting with Avo today. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Want to get the latest HRRN content directly on your computer or mobile device? Then subscribe to our podcast using the Podbean app or Apple Podcasts. Just go to hrrn.podbean.com on your computer and click follow, or download the Podbean app and search HRRN. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and listen to our latest episodes anytime. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our podcasts today. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Epicenter on the outside of Cyberknife, and there's a quarter of a mile to the finish in the 153rd Run Happy Travers. Here is Epicenter now to take over the lead. Cyberknife is down at the rail and racing in second. Zandon has now moved into third. They pass the 8th pole. It is Epicenter in front, and he is at the top of the 3-year-old class. Epicenter won the Jim Dandy, and he backs it up with a very top-notch finish in the Run Happy Travers. Epicenter was the winner. The 1.25 miles went in 2 minutes and 3/5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. John Embriel with the call of the Midsummer Derby. Epicenter getting the victory that day. It was a victory that would be good enough to cement his title as 3-year-old champion this year. Those awards handed out last night, and Epicenter getting the nod over Taba and Modern Games in that voting. And I'll tell you, I was a bit surprised. I went with Taba. You heard Tim Wilkin during I Asked They Answer saying he voted for Taba. I thought his 3 Grade 1 wins this year were better than that 1 Grade 1 win, even though it was the Travers, by Epicenter. And I was a little surprised that I can't say I was surprised because I kind of expected it, but if I'm just looking at the way I approached it and Timmy approached it, I think the 3 Grade 1s are enough to, if you win 3 Grade 1s as a 3-year-old in your 3-year-old season, you should be 3-year-old champion unless somebody does something ridiculous, and that didn't happen this year. To me, Taba was the most consistent. His only poor effort coming in the Kentucky Derby. And yeah, he didn't win one of the big 4, if you will, with the Triple Crown races, the Derby, Preakness, Belmont, and then the Travers. But I thought Taba had the better overall campaign than Epicenter. But obviously, the rest of the voters did not agree with Tim or myself. And that's fine. No problem there. The February issue of Blood Horse Magazine features 130 pages, including leading sires of 2022. That includes profiles on Into Mischief, who was the leading sire for a 4th consecutive year. Bolt Doro, leading freshman sire. Gun Runner, the leading second crop sire. And English Channel, the leading turf sire. Plus, you can also check out cool segments like Behind the Breedings and Perfect Fit. Those 2 stories are really good, too. Download a copy of the Blood Horse Magazine app via the App Store or Google Play, or subscribe today and receive a 2023 Blood Horse calendar at $24.95 value, absolutely free. Plus, with your subscription, you will also have free membership to Blood Horse Plus, and all you have to do is go to bloodhorse.com/winter special to take advantage of those offers. That's bloodhorse.com/winter special. Well, my thanks to all of our guests for making this show possible today, and it has been a very busy program. And my thanks to all of you for weighing in on the poll question and for tuning in here this morning. Couple of things. I thought the conversation with Dale and Tim talking about the 4 NFL quarterbacks remaining in the playoffs, I thought that was interesting, comparing jockeys and trainers. But I also thought their take on, and I was surprised that they both agreed on this, saying that the previous 6 winners of the Pegasus World Cup, which one of those 6 would be considered the greatest Pegasus World Cup winner to date? And they both took Arrowgate. And I get it. I mean, Arrowgate was sensational, but I thought Gunrunner might get a little more respect there. And they both also said that if those 6 horses, Arrowgate, Gunrunner, City of Light, Mucho Gusto, Knicks Go, and Life is Good, if those 6 were all in the starting gate together, and you were just going to run those 6 against each other in a Champions edition of the Pegasus World Cup, they both also said Arrowgate would go postward as the favorite, and he probably would. But I don't think he'd be as big of a favorite as you would think with a horse like Gunrunner in there. And City of Light was no slouch. City of Light was, and Knicks Go was no slouch. Life is Good was very good when he won the Pegasus World Cup. And people said there's distance limitations with him. Well, there weren't that day. I think Mucho Gusto is probably, if you were to take those 6 and line them up, he'd be the longest shot in the race. But I'm not sure that you can say Arrowgate would be that big of a favorite over that field. I don't know. I think Gunrunner would give Arrowgate a run for his money. Not saying that maybe he would beat him, but I think that would be one hell of a race. And I don't think with Knicks Go in there and City of Light, Life is Good, I think that would be one. We'll never get to see it, but I think it would be kind of cool to talk about. Something to dream about on this Saturday morning. My thanks to everyone for tuning in, and my thanks to our guests again who made this show possible. Really fun conversations throughout the show. And to Joe Kristufek for the TwinSpires Triple Play. And my thanks to Kurt Becker for that stroll through racing history that you heard just a short time ago. If you missed any of the show, head over to our website, horseracingradio.net. Check out the podcast there. You can also do that on every major podcast platform. And when you're on our website, subscribe to our 2 weekly email newsletters we send out to keep you in touch with everything happening here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. My thanks to my producer, Lee Delapina, in our Lexington studio, and to Chauncey for handling all of our social media again this morning. I'm Mike Penna. Thanks for listening. And yeah, go Steelers.